evening, everyone. Welcome to our school committee meeting this evening for October 21st of the Charahoe Regional School District. Appreciate you being here. We have a full house tonight. So we just finished executive session, and I am going to turn this over to Gina for the closing and sealing of executive session minutes.
I recommend closing and sealing the executive session minutes of this evening as they pertain to matters of the following: discussion of the job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person's, discussion and or actions pertaining to collective bargaining, and matters which relate to the privacy of students and their records.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Disclosure of executive session votes, and those votes will be read aloud by our Vice Chair, Laura Chapman.
Good evening, everybody. There were 5 votes taken in executive session tonight. The first vote was to reorganize the items in the executive session. That vote was unanimous. The second vote was the approval of the executive session minutes from 9:23, 10 in favor and 1 abstention from Member Champlin. The third vote was the approval of homeschool requests. That vote was unanimous. The fourth vote taken was under 2A. It's with regard to a personnel matter. That vote was also unanimous. And then the fifth vote that was taken was to return to open session, and that was unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So next on our agenda is recognition. We have a couple of members this evening that will be reading aloud recognition of specific things that happened in the district relative to athletics. And then we have a recognition for Attorney Anderson. So I'm going to turn this over to Diane Teft, please, and then followed by Linda Lyall.
Congratulations to the Charahoe High School cross-country team for winning the sophomore race at the Manhattan Invitational on Saturday, October 11th, 2025. Luke Baxter, Isaiah Brown, Cam Cogshow, Gus Freelove, Ayla Grant, Leo Haxton, Jack Corris, Elijah Marland, Sam Prentice, and Noah Waterman. And then congratulations to all of the fall senior athletes as they prepare to end their final season as Charahoe athletes in their selected sports.
Linda?
Thank you. Congratulations to Charahoe sophomore Abby Tiernan, who was named the Rhode Island Player of the Week by the American Volleyball Coaches Association Max Preps for the week ending October 5th. Congratulations, Abby. And congratulations to Attorney John Anderson on receiving recognition in the 2026 edition of Best Lawyers. Well deserved, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane and Linda. Next on our agenda is public forum. So those who signed up to speak will be asked to come to the podium and state your name and town that you reside. You are welcome to speak about items not on the agenda. So there are a number of topics that some of the speakers wrote that may be considered items on our agenda. So, well, I'll get to that when I read your name out loud. So I just want to stress what our public forum policy states. And per our public forum policy, a speaker who makes a statement has a responsibility to be accurate and present facts and present information based on personal knowledge, not hearsay, be considerate and allow others to speak without interruption. So as the chair of the school committee, it's my responsibility to ensure decorum and be mindful of time management this evening. With that being said, I'm asking our community members to refrain from cheering, clapping, booing, shouting, or disrupting the speaker who has the floor. Per our policy, public comment is not to exceed 30 minutes. We have a number of speakers tonight, so I'm going to limit each speaker to 2 minutes. Our vice chair, Laura Chapman, will be keeping the time. And when the timer goes off, if you are not finished, I'm going to thank you respectfully and move on to the next speaker. So if you are thinking about speaking tonight, or if you've signed up, please be mindful that you have 2 minutes to speak. I've given latitude in the past on this, but we have a full agenda tonight with a lot of conversation that I know is going to bring a lot of public input too. So I'm going to hold every speaker to 2 minutes, okay? Thank you. All right, so our first speaker this evening is Jasmine Roy. So Jasmine, your subject says to address the school committee and teachers. So,
Not anything that's on the agenda.
okay, but I'm going to ask you to just address the school committee and not address the teachers. Gina, is there some protocol around that?
This is nothing, it's nothing crazy.
No, it's just that you're always presenting to the school committee.
I'm
Okay.
presenting to the school committee, but I know teachers are watching.
Okay, thank you,
that's
Jasmine.
basically what
All
I
right,
want
so
to
we're
do.
going to start the timer.
Okay, thank you. My name's Jasmine Roy from Hopkinton. I'm also the vice chair of Moms for Liberty, Washington County, Rhode Island. I know that a lot of you look at me and think that I dislike teachers. I hate teachers, and I want to fundamentally destroy the public school system. Well, that is not accurate at all. I do appreciate teachers. I think they are an essential part of our child's learning. The part that I do not like is that teachers are beholden to federal unions like the NEA. And if they are not aware that there are other alternatives out there that can protect them, that can give them benefits, then how would they know? So tonight I am here to let you know that I have a couple of resources for the teachers. One of them is called the American Teachers Alliance. This is an empowering educators and enriching education. Join America's best non-union educators association. It's open to all students and staffs and community members. The other one I have is called Teacher Freedom Alliance. And it says here, you have the right to teach free of union chains. A lot of the money that goes to dues is funneled into political games. And as a nonpartisan organization, I urge you to look into other options and free yourself from a union that spends your money the way that they want to spend it. If any of you are interested on any of this information, you can reach out to me. I will be more than happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Jasmine, can I ask you one thing?
Sure.
The Teachers Freedom Alliance, isn't that free?
Yes, it is.
And isn't it a $2 million surety bond?
Yes, it is. Would you like a copy of the pamphlets?
I'd love one.
Okay.
I'd love a copy of each, thanks.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you.
So the next speaker is Councilwoman Sharon Davis from Hopkinton. Sharon, I don't see you. There you are. Okay, so Sharon, you have on your subject matter SLAM, construction, and vote. So if that's related to our agenda item coming up a little bit of the way down, can we hold that? Or did you have something beyond that? You will, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Okay, Scott Daigle from Richmond. So Scott, would you like to speak on something not on the agenda? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm here to address one of the school committee members in regards to statements made at a meeting pertaining to eminent domain. I find
Were
it,
you at that meeting?
no, but
Then it's hearsay.
is it hearsay?
Meeting.
Ooh, then it's not hearsay.
So was there a video posted?
Of the meeting? I don't know what meeting you're talking about.
Go ahead, Scott.
The discussion happened after the meeting was over.
Apologies, I just need one.
Okay,
I was there.
so one at a time. Scott, did you watch the video?
No, I did not.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna, I
I'll
appreciate,
watch I'll watch the
and
video
you can come
and
back.
I'll be back.
And you can come back next month.
You got it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. Okay. Alex McKendall from Richmond, Media and Maintenance. I think that's what that says. Oh, we'll skip the maintenance? Okay.
Alex from Richmond. So I have a, excuse me, I have a concern. I don't like public speaking. I have a concern about the policy at the Richmond Elementary School when it comes to social media. And apparently, my question is why is it not a default no to post children on social media? I have signed the papers that said I do not want that, yet it still happened. And I tried to do this behind closed doors and solve the problem at the lowest level. And I lose some faith because the default should be no, and I should sign something that says, yes, I want my child to be on social media. And when you're nervous about specific people looking for your children, it really bothers me. And I feel as if it's swept under the rug. It was immediately taken down when it was addressed, but I am not the only parent in this situation. I'm the only one that's scared to speak because I don't like to public speak, but they're scared to say something. So all I want to make this go away is for a policy of, I would think all the way through the high school to be, you're not allowed to post children on your school Instagram and I don't know what the point of the Instagram is, but you're not allowed to put that, their name or whatever goes on with that, because our children have to be protected. And for more reasons than you know, some people are in different situations.
Okay, Mr. McKendall, so your 2 minutes is up. Thank you for making your comment. I think the superintendent would like to respond to that if you'd like to stay at the podium.
So, Mr. McKendall, thank you for sharing. I'd love to follow up with you if I may. The policy does, you're correct, at the beginning of the school year, Power School, you opt to have the form where you tell us yes or no for certain things. But if you've selected no and your child was posted, that should not be happening. So that's something that we take very seriously. I will follow up with that. Thank you for sharing that. But we already have that policy exist. And
But it's a default yes, because they said, oh, well, we don't have any paperwork of you saying no. And I was like, you should have a piece of paper that says yes.
no, but it is digital. That's why we've
And that was a failure too, because there was a problem with that many parents did not get the digital copies. And here I am making a big thing out of it when I tried to do it at the lowest level. And again,
Yeah,
we
so-
need to fix it. It needs to go away, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
So Power School, when the parents have the letters at the beginning of the year, there is the digital forms. That ensures that nobody loses paper. We don't, if a child doesn't forget to bring it home, bring it back so that we have digital.
But if the
are you
default is
asking-
no,
Just let her finish and
sorry,
then you
I
can
apologize.
I just wanna
respond.
let you- I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So in any time where they're being posted, typically, like for example, when we have a special event, we sort of double down and share it again and say, this is new event is happening. But I'm gonna follow up at Richmond to see what's going on with the Instagram. Typically, it should be, like, for example, we have a Charahoe account, there's no comments, it's just for, sharing of good information on what's happening in the school district. And if it's a public event, for example, like an athletic event, then anyone can post. So we can't control public events. But anything in-house, that should not be happening. But what I can do is talk to the legal counsel, and I think what you're asking is for the school committee to consider an opt-in, not an
Yes.
opt-out.
Thank you.
As a policy, correct?
Right, that's why, I believe that's what you're trying.
That would solve this in the future, then, if no one signs anything.
Nope,
Okay.
I understand, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Holly, did you want to say something about that?
I was just going to comment that folds into the policy that I was targeting for the photography and the media. And we do have, if you sign it and say, no, my child cannot be photographed and reproduced, then there's no photographs taken for the yearbook or around the school. And we have to segregate that out from social media. Because I want my kids to be in the yearbook. I want all of their pictures around the school to be in the yearbook, but I just don't want it to be reproduced on social media. So I think segregating those two out might help.
That actually, I only because I can't, because it's public comment, so we should probably.
I'll recommend it at the end.
At the end
I've
for
already
future
written it
agenda
down.
items? Great, thank you. Okay, Goldie Williams from Richmond. Goldie, do you want to speak on something not on the agenda, correct? Okay, thank you.
Goldie Williams in Richmond. I was talking about a school member who mentioned eminent domain for the schools, and 2 weeks before it was there was someone on the town council, Richmond Town Council, did the same, but I don't see it in the notes or the minutes about somebody mentioning the eminent domain for the school, new school.
Okay,
Second, I was at the Charlestown when I was with the parents, and the Charlestown parents don't want another school. They didn't want their child on the bus for 45 minutes to an hour.
okay, so Goldie, I'm going to hold you right there. So the second part of your comment, I think is going to sort of cross over to our discussion on our stage 2 application.
Yeah,
And we will,
I have 2,108 students for the school. How do we know it's that much when some of the students go charter private? Is that part too?
so I'm not sure about that second half, but I know that anything related to transportation and sort of the positives and challenges around each of the options for our stage 2 application, we're going to get to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Helen Sheehan from Richmond.
Helen Sheehan, Richmond. I will save my comments about the construction for later. But for now, I just wanted to address something that was said at the last town council meeting, school committee meeting, which was that your budget does not affect my taxes. So through my intermediary, the town of Richmond, I paid this year to the Charahoe school system $6,494.82, which is 80% of my Richmond taxes.
Thank you, Helen. Justin Bentley from Hopkinton. Justin?
Thank you for letting me speak. I apologize. I loathe reading a prepared speech. I'd rather come and speak to you, but 2 minutes is fast. So, Gina, I'm going to address you directly, please, if you don't mind.
Well, you're going to have to direct your
Sorry, I'll
comments to
address
the
it to the
chair.
whole school
Thank
committee,
you.
but that's for you. On behalf of countless members of the Charo community, I've received a lot of emails and texts. I'd like to personally thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do on a daily basis for Charahoe Public Schools. Anyone can look at academic data, continual growth successes, or they could attend meetings and they could be overwhelmed by the complex financials and details. If they do, they'll find that your nurturing love for Charahoe and its students is readily apparent. It's unfortunate that you have to continually battle premeditated and unfounded attacks against your actions, policies, and personal character. Yet you tirelessly wade through these needless distractions and continue to strive to make Charahoe even greater than it already is. Thank you for that. Just know that many citizens in this district, many more than you may realize, understand and appreciate your successes. It must be exhausting to have to continually explain policy, practices, state laws, and initiatives to members of the community, students, staff, school committee even, but yet you patiently do that time and time again. This takes fortitude, intelligence, patience, and empathetic interpersonal skills. I've been an educator for 26 years. I also attended Charo for 13 years and have children. So that's blessed me, I guess. with the opportunity to either learn under, work under, or raise children under a broad spectrum of school superintendents. By my count, that puts me at 11. That's a lot of interactions, data, and information, which makes me qualified to state with zero reservation that you have been and continue to be one of the most effective, caring, knowledgeable district leaders I've ever interacted with. Truly one of the best. Despite the picture that some of the members of the community are trying to paint, you are not a bully with a clandestine agenda. You are a passionate, intelligent leader only looking to lift the district to even higher levels. We see you, we hear you, we appreciate you. I give
you,
everybody
Justin.
permission to clap.
No, come on. David Way. David, you are from Richmond.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
So I have a question about the building, and I'm not sure if I can ask these questions now.
So about either the construction of one school, the renovation and addition, and the
That's
proposal
correct.
for three?
It's
Okay.
basically architectural questions and
Okay.
budget questions.
Okay, so we're going to hold those until we get to that agenda item.
Got it.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Catherine, is it Soderstrom from Hopkinton? Okay, so Catherine, your agenda item or your subject item says school builds. So is this related to the agenda item that we're going to talk about in a few minutes about the 3 potential options for elementary planning?
Yes, I just real quickly just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Picard and to all those who did the presentations, to all the different people who are not necessarily always at the school committee meetings. I have to say I really appreciated how clear all of the alternatives were mapped out, how well all the questions were answered in those various meetings. And I just want to commend everyone on the school board, again, Ms. Picard, and all those who've put together the various proposals. I think it's all been very clear, and I really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Catherine Giusti from Hopkinton?
Madam Chair, you have stated that your core values include kindness, respect, tolerance, and civility. I only wish those values were shared by all members of this committee. Just yesterday, Member Hopkins falsely claimed that I support eminent domain. She posted this on Facebook where she has me blocked, perhaps assuming I wouldn't see it, but I did. And revisiting that post led me to others on her page. What I found should concern every member of this committee because several of you or your spouses follow her page. In particular, one particularly disturbing post she shared an image comparing children waving pride flags, which stand for LGBTQ+ inclusion, to children in Nazi Germany waving swastikas. The caption described both groups as cults that target kids for political purposes. I have my own biases, of course, and so I put that picture into ChatGPT for it to be interpreted by AI. And AI quickly responded that the post was anti-LGBTQ propaganda and how dangerous its amplification is. When I shared the post with the chair, ma'am, you defended the post via email, calling Ms. Hopkins a friend and saying that she's entitled to her opinion. Let's be absolutely clear. This is not just an opinion. It's a hateful, dehumanizing attack on LGBTQ+ students, families, and educators. It equates inclusion with fascism. It portrays LGBTQ+ identity as dangerous, and it sends a message that these students should be feared, mocked, or silenced. Hopkins is entitled to her opinion, but public officials are also accountable for their harm their words cause. LGBTQ+ students already face higher risks of bullying, depression, and suicide. This kind of rhetoric doesn't just offend, it creates unsafe environments that put real lives at risk. School leaders are supposed to protect students, not amplify bigotry or excuse it. Charahoe's motto is all kids all of the time. While I can't make any of you accept our LGBTQ students, I'm asking you to stop targeting them. Every child in this district is watching. The question is, what kind of leadership are you modeling for them?
Mike Colasanti from Richmond. So Mike, I think your subject says statewide school assessment. So is that, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to give you a little bit of background on some of the other school districts around the state. Cranston School, Garden City Elementary School, with an over 30% overrun. It was originally, the bond was $55 million. The bond went to over $70 million. Capital Projects Manager Ed Collins stated the district is doing away with traditional classrooms. That's why they needed so much space.
So Mike, I'm going to hold you there only because we're going to have a robust conversation during the stage 2 process on our agenda that talks about next steps relative to Charahoe options. And we're going to be talking as a school committee about pros and cons, and then we'll open it up to the public to talk about that information that would pertain to perhaps a reason to select an option or not to select an option. So all of that information, I think we have to, Attorney Anderson, let me know if I'm incorrect here. I just want to make sure that I'm not stepping in it. Okay.
This has nothing to do with Charahoe. I'm going to talk about Cranston and Warwick. Has nothing to do with Charahoe.
I understand, but the information that you're bringing forward has to do with potentially swaying us one way or the other. So the information that you have is valid and valuable, and I think that when we get to that agenda item, I and all of us would entertain and love to hear your feedback on whatever other data you have from other districts. So can you sit tight for a little bit? And there were other people who, you know, wanted to talk about something similar, like Sharon Davis. So we will get there. So just give us a few minutes and we will get there.
Okay.
All right.
Well, she was specifically talking about Charahoe. I'm specifically talking about other school districts. Has nothing to do with Charahoe.
Okay, we'll get back to you. Thank you. All right, so that concludes our public forum. Thank you very much for your patience and for your feedback from everyone. Thank you. All right, so we're on to item 8, business. Presentation by the Chief Operations Officer at RIDE, Mario Carreño, regarding transportation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the school committee. Thanks for having me. Mario Carreño, Chief Operation Officer from RIDE. The timing of this presentation, I think, is fortunate with the fact that federal funds are in flux. The state budget may not be as robust as it has been in past years, and districts should always reevaluate how they're spending their money, because realistically, any future priorities, the most likely source of revenue for those is a reallocation of your existing money. And the place we are starting this year is with transportation, and I think you'll find out why. But I can't think of anything worse than spending money on empty buses, if I'm being honest with you. If we can go to the next slide and begin here. It's always helpful to begin with context. Some of you may have seen this slide, but in Rhode Island, we're down 23,400 students over the last 20 years. That's the equivalent of every district in Washington County and Newport County all vanishing from the map. That's how many students less that we have. With that information, do we think that we have lower transportation costs, or do we think that we have higher transportation costs in Rhode Island? Do you want to take a guess? We have much higher transportation costs. Next slide, please. They're up 61% over the last 10 years. If we focus on just the last 3 years after COVID, they're up 20%. That is more than double inflation. That is 3 times salaries. It's higher than food service, utility. It's higher than any other expenditure in a school district. At the same time, we're seeing very few kids actually riding the buses. The reason for that, if you can go to the next slide, and this is perhaps the takeaway from this, is we have a fragmented system. We have the smallest state in Rhode Island with 65 individual LEAs, each doing their own transportation. You have the state doing other routes on top of that, as well as private schools also doing their own routes. As compared to a single county in Maryland, Montgomery County, who has 25,000 more students than Rhode Island, but they spend $40 million a year less than we do. And that's because we have a fragmented system with limited vendors, and the system benefits the vendors who are for-profit entities. So you can see that we are ripe for opportunity here in Rhode Island, and rather than looking at cutting teachers or other scopes, let's start with the empty seats on the buses. So we're doing a 3-phase approach. Next slide, please. And it's rather simple. So we have a statewide system, just so that everyone understands who rides the statewide system. It's private school students, career and tech students, foster, homeless, and special ed kids that go to school outside of your district. That's who we transport on statewide transportation. Many of our buses are half full. And that's because you can't go to 5 towns picking up kids and then drop them off at 10 different schools all at the same time. So we have ample capacity on the statewide system. What we're finding is we, as a state, are showing up with buses to one school at the same time the district is showing up to the same place, also with an empty bus. So what we tried this summer, we have 3 pilots in play with Providence, Cumberland, and Coventry, where they were able to shed their buses. We are picking up their students, so it doesn't change the impact of the state system, and they get the savings locally. Every bus you shave is about $100,000 a year in revenue that you get to keep. So in this case, we're already over 1.1 million with the small sample size. We've asked every district to give us their data so that we can do a report by the end of probably January or February, so you'll have it in time for budgeting season, with the thought of, if you cooperate and put XYZ students on our buses, you will save money. As an example, we transport 133 of your high school students to your high school. You have 133 kids. 13.5% of your high school students are not from Charahoe. It's one of the highest in the state, which is a great opportunity because we're sending multiple buses through your towns. And if we could pick up other high school students, you might be able to shed multiple buses here, which would be great for you. So that's phase 1. We have the data, and that will be out at some point in the next 3 or 4 months. Phase 2 is what is, again, this is optional, and any district is welcome to opt into the phase 2, if we can go to the next slide, is an independent route review of your existing bus system. What happens is, in Rhode Island, almost every district contracts busing services. So you have one of 5 vendors who do the service, but they also do the routing. And when one vendor does the routing and the servicing and every route equals 100,000, I can guarantee you that not every district has the optimal profile of routes. We procured this service for everyone, and whoever wants to opt in, the costs are prorated based on the number of kids you have. I think it's like $8,500 for Charahoe. It's very minor in the scheme of things. But an independent company would come, review all the routes, they'll do route yields, they'll look at bell times. In every case so far, they have found significant savings. It's up to you whether you want to proceed with this, but again, even if you save one bus, the study pays itself probably 10 times over a multi-year period. This also begins to allow us to gather other data. So if we can go to the last slide, please. So we start to look at things a little bit differently. This is, I did this presentation in Cumberland a few months ago, but just as an example, we have all these arbitrary town boundaries, and we route at the moment based on those boundaries, when we should be routing by proximity, because you pay for every mile that you move. In this example, we have many schools in Lincoln that are closer to Cumberland schools than Lincoln schools, and vice versa. That if this were magnified out and districts begin to work together and bid together and have perhaps the different bell times and work together, the costs will go down. And even if we only gather half of the 40 million, that's still 20 million reasons to embark on this study. So that's our plan for this. I'm happy to take any questions on transportation that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Carreño. So before I ask our committee if they have any questions, I know that you wanted to come and speak eventually to our school committee. And when I spoke with you last week about our stage 2 application, because I had some questions, you had mentioned to me that you had this presentation. So I thought it was timely that you come tonight before we talk about our stage 2 planning, because transportation has been a concern for a lot of parents when we've done our presentations, when actually SLAM has done presentations at our elementary schools. So thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate that. And I thought that this was timely, and you're giving this presentation this evening.
Excellent.
All right, are there any questions from any of the school committee members? Laura?
So the 8,500, that covers, how long does that assessment take?
So we're doing it in phases. So they are doing 10 northern districts starting October 27th. That'll be about a 2-week period. I'm meeting with the Washington County superintendents November 4th, because typically we do them in sections. If for those who want to participate, it would likely be by November, December, but the idea is you would have the information for budget season. As part of this report, we've asked the vendor to produce an executive summary whose main audience are the school committee. Many of they're even streamlined. It's a lot of information that the school committee may not need, but the district needs to make sure that they understand it. But you will get a comprehensive report with a variety of recommendations, and you're free to choose none of them. You're free to choose all of them, but at least you'll have the information before you to determine what you want to save. Now, obviously, there's a cost with some of these, perhaps changing bell times. there's pros and cons, but in general, there are some low-hanging fruit that you could immediately act on that would not impact service in general.
And then if there was a change in, like, so essentially the idea behind all this is that you're sort of taking away those lines between all the different counties and districts and everything so that buses can just be more efficient in that process, right? So like if Westerly, if there's some sort of redistricting that's being done in a different town, what you're saying is the theory is that that wouldn't really affect the transportation aspect, correct?
Yeah, so like longer term, we would look at, so the meeting we had with the northern districts, that if you do a line from Cranston to East Providence, that perhaps everywhere north bids out as one package. And then that way, if everyone coordinates their bell times and the distances, we would need less buses as a state. We would likely have better run times, better start times. Like there's a lot of positives when we work together, as we're seeing the example of Montgomery County, when they all work as one entity, things go much more seamless and much more efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Mario? Jess?
So when you talk about changing the lines, are you talking about just state transportation? Or are you talking about melding state transportation with our local transportation?
So for phase one, which is the first one, we are going to offer, we are looking at the buses that come into your high school at the moment. We will know how many empty seats are on there. And we might be able to say, hey, we can pick up 200 of your high school students if we work together. If that were to come to fruition, you could likely shave 4 buses, which is 400,000. And then it'd be like a conversation with you if you wanted to go that extreme. The pilots that we have started were really like low-hanging fruit in that in Providence, for example, they have a lot of private schools within their boundaries that the state won't transport. They have to do it themselves. Those buses can't be combined with their others. So we just picked them up really easily as a trial, and they just eliminated the service. In this case, we would look at adding some of your high school kids, and whether there's some nuance, whether you do depot stops, or we would work together on how much you wanted to save. We would do like the most extreme savings, which probably is the most inconvenient for families, to the reverse, and you as a committee would decide how much you want to participate. But we would at least have the information to make those choices. We don't have that information at the moment. The phase 2 is just to look at what you have, and it helps us gather data. And this is a future state. If districts choose to bid out together, not to regionalize, but to do a contracted service together, that would work. And this is just one aspect. I think some of you may have heard at the school committee meetings, Rhode Island districts over the last 5 years have spent $1 billion on contracted services. And we're all doing this by ourselves, that we should start bidding together on this. This is just one of the aspects. I'm hoping that this will be the catalyst to get districts to begin to work together on any of these purchase services.
Yeah, I can see how it could benefit many districts, but in Charahoe, we're 126 square geographic miles, so we're already 3 towns working together. But I do see buses that are empty, but they're not our buses, they're state buses, as you said. I feel a little like this is asking us to help solve a state problem and saying that, well, if you just give us your data, give us all your data about where your kids are. And then I'm like, well, who has the responsibility for the students? How are we going to pay you to take our kids? We've talked about in the past, last year we supported a resolution in support of legislation that would allow us to take care of out-of-district transportation rather than having the state do it. So I think there are different ways to do it. And I do appreciate the information, but I'm just a little wary about what the benefit would be. Transportation is a big expense for us. And, I see a bus, this is anecdotal, but I see it every day, a bus from Exeter, West Greenwich, which I assume is a state bus, or must be state transportation.
Not necessarily. They send.
It's EW. So right
But it
now,
has
our
4 kids
statewide is
on it.
limited.
That's right. So in this case, the state system, and to directly answer your question, is a fixed cost. We have to run routes that are required by state law. We have routes that go from Bristol to Lincoln, Rhode Island, 20 miles each way. We have to run it. And then we have to pay for the bus, whether there's 11 children on it or 50. It's the same cost. The premise being, if we have capacity coming into your town, we wouldn't charge you to ride. You would come on for free, and then you would shed buses that you were paying for at the moment. That's the premise of it. We did a trial with, we'll do Coventry as an example. We had 3 buses going through Coventry to Bishop Henrican, a private school in Warwick. They had their own bus going from Coventry to Bishop Henrican. We just took their kids. They got to pick any of the stops that we were going in town. They shed the bus. They saved $100,000 this year. But like, we're not even charging for the empty seats. So that's any other cooperation. You don't have to do any of this phase 3. I know that if you look at the map, I think one of your schools, Ashaway, I think it's like right on the westerly line. There is still some opportunity to coordinate here, but the premise is just to at least give you the information. You don't have to take any of this, but at least we are doing our due diligence to find opportunities. At least the first few we found, again, those are $1.1 million that those districts have now that it didn't have a few months ago.
So you said that our students could hop on your bus for free if that route already existed.
That's the idea behind this phase.
How would we maintain responsibility for those students? Would they have to sign a waiver that says, I take statewide transportation, or it's just, how do we sign on to this agreement? Is it an MOU?
No, first we're just
MOA?
giving you data, and then we would have that conversation thereafter. For the ones we've used, we directed them to the portal and they've signed up themselves. Like, we have the processes in place for kids to sign themselves up. We would do that if that's the way we went, but I would say let's first get the data and then we can see what's possible. But all we're trying to do now is gather information, because we know that we're spending too much. Like that, I can tell you with fact. Whether this is a perfect match or not, you are the one to decide that, this committee, but I know we'll find savings in this state. We just need to work together to achieve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura?
Is this also applicable to after-school busing, or are you just looking at the AM, PM routes?
At the moment, it's AM, PM. I suspect we could easily gather that information, but the main focus of the study has been just the morning runs, the afternoon runs. We're looking at bell times. We're just gathering data now to find, like, some things will just jump off the map. In the Lincoln Cumberland example, we already found things very easily that they will save a lot of money if they work together, that I'm sure we will find others like that. But I think that's a good one to add to the study for sure.
Thanks.
Mr. Luzon?
Mario, you never answered one of her questions, Jessica's questions about liability. So, and I'm concerned about that. At the end of the day, the Charahoe Regional School District is responsible for Charahoe Regional students. How does that work with the state?
Do you have any students that ride in the other direction? I'm just wondering.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, so like it would be, for most districts, they have students who come in and go out, and it's covered under the same premise. I'd have to look and see what you have. I suspect do we have any that ride out?
Yep, we have students that are.
Yeah, so we're already doing it for some of your residents, taking them out of the district. So whatever covers them would likely cover.
There's a portal. They said that so our parents who need statewide transportation sign up. Like, for example, a lot of our students, we do have a handful that do go to other districts, and then they sign up through the statewide system.
Thank you. Polly?
I don't know if I'm going to state this right, but it sounds like the state would be in competition with Ocean State Transit. If you're going to supplement some of the busing in our area, where we're going to be able to nix about 4 buses, yes, that saves us money, but weren't we just here supporting our staff and our school district? Those are 4 bus drivers. Those are buses that kids know the drivers. They don't necessarily know the state drivers. So I have a concern about that.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, thank you for being here tonight. And are you staying for the next agenda item? Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. So our next agenda item under business is vote to select the elementary school facility option for stage 2 application to RIDE regarding the 5-year capital improvement plan. So the superintendent has prepared some slides to sort of frame our discussion this evening. And then after the superintendent finishes her slides, what I'd like to do to try to organize this discussion, because this is probably going to take up the bulk of our time tonight, and I know that there are many people here that want to weigh in on this, is that I think what would be a good idea would be we have 3 options to consider: construct one unified school, renovate or add on to 3 existing elementary schools, or construct 3 new elementary schools. So what I'd like to do is I will put each of the index cards in the basket. I'll have Laura probably pick out one at a time. And I'd love to have the school committee members talk about the positives about each, item and the challenges. And we'll go through those as a group to try to build some consensus, potentially around one option. And then we will absolutely take input from the members of our community. So I'm going to turn it over to Gina first. Yes. On what Mr. Carreño just said? Yes.
I just wanted to remind the school committee that we currently have numerous buses in district that are 3 or more kids to a seat, including high school, band instruments, and it's not an easy way already. So just when we're talking about cutting buses, I think we should be adding buses personally. And I also wanted to clarify that discussion from Mario, which I thought was excellent. I'm in full support of spending that money to get that data, to save money where we could. And assuming that correctly, that was just for out of district transport. That was not looking at any of our internal situation, which I think we should still be looking at. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Mr. Daigle? You have a comment on that topic?
I do, yes. In regards to the statement where you made you were going to combine districts, and there were to be districts would have to come up with ways to work through their start and end times. Was that correct in that? Did I misinterpret that? Because I saw some circles on a map, which...
Thanks, Mario. So everyone can hear you.
Those who wanted to go that route could decide whether they wanted to work together and change time zone. No one's being forced to work together. Some of the observations we're seeing, and as an example, that in the Lincoln Cumberland, if Lincoln started 7 minutes sooner and Cumberland 7 minutes later, they could squeeze out a bus run. But these all require school committee approval. That's a future state. We're not even there yet, but we are looking at the possibility of at least bidding together to get economies of scale when we bid out.
So one issue you'd have with that is that start and finish times are contractual, and contracts are between, they are. Start and finish times are contractual, as are in some districts. So if you were to combine districts, like you just said, if they were to opt onto that, that would be a contract, something you need to negotiate between the union and management. It's contract language. So contracts are separate and start from different districts on different dates. So you'd need to align all those contracts on the same day. So if there is one, say, for example, if you wanted to, you said use Lincoln and Cumberland. Lincoln's contract start and finish times, whenever that 3-year contract was made between the management and the union, was, say, may not be aligned with the same time that Cumberland has their contracts, nor are start times. So this is something you plan to set out to offer to districts to combine times, then their contract language is going to have to combine. And the times, their contract times when they negotiate would have to be aligned. Contracts do not begin and end at the same time within districts. And I see Mr. Anderson shaking his head, so I'm just making an observation of your head shaking.
John, do you want to go to the microphone?
John, microphone.
John? Thank you.
Mr. Daigle, you are correct. The start and end times in many districts are written into the contracts. I've had a personal experience with a situation in Pawtucket where they wanted to move the start time at 2 elementary schools by 20 minutes or so. And the union said, no, unless you put something in our hand. If you have any questions, Mr. Carino, Mrs. DeCenza was very knowledgeable in that she had to resolve that matter.
And that is correct, though not, again, that phase 3 is years away. I think the action item was at least to get the introspective of what you have right now before we even get there. There are many things to discuss at the moment. In Lincoln, for example, I'm on school committee. We don't have a start time. We have a set amount of times we have to work, so we can change our schedule. Cumberland is the same way, but there are many districts that have, I get that. But that's years away. We are only here to look at opportunities that are available to us now that you can do legally, and if you want to approve it, the committee doesn't have to approve any change. You don't have to save any money. That's up to you. We are just making information available for those who choose to partake.
Thank you. All set, Mr. Daigle? No? Okay,
Just
go ahead.
one final statement, and then I'll sit down. To quote the late, great President Ronald Reagan, when the government is here to save you money or to help you, you should be concerned. And this is a quasi-government institution. I'd be concerned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. As I was saying, oh, Goldie? This is about this topic, transportation? Okay.
The parents in Charahoe do not want their kids on the bus for 45 minutes to an hour. And he didn't bring up the special needs bus, which is the smaller bus. And if they would have problems with certain kids that don't want to go to school, what would they do about it?
Thank you, Goldie. Okay, we are going to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you for everybody's feedback. And I'm going to turn it over to Gina to frame and start us off on this discussion, which is really important for our district. So we have a plan moving forward for our elementary schools as part of a 5-year capital improvement plan. So as I said, the superintendent has a few slides, and then we will move on to our discussion as a committee.
So as many of you remember, in May of 2024, we originally had a bond for both the main campus and our elementary facilities that was not successful. We received more feedback on the elementaries versus the main campus, so we siphoned out our main campus and we broke it down to much smaller needs, knowing that our elementary facilities were in a much great dire need for concerns. So we brought in and requested of you in November a bond for $15 million to get our main campus some updates based on HVAC, plumbing, et cetera, and a few of the athletic needs. With that being said, we still do not have an elementary capital plan, which is required by state law. And when you don't have that, then you are only allowed to get reimbursed up to $500,000 overall for your elementary facilities. So we immediately embarked when the bond failed to do that. The November 2024 bond for the main campus was successful. So our goal now is really to move into the elementary school facilities. So the next slide. So really what we're just solving, we have aging buildings. You know, Richmond is probably the highest level of need, with Charlestown the second highest and Ashway our third. And they are definitely require some costly reactive repairs. Many of you, if you're following the budget transfers, you can see they're really for maintenance and facility needs. We've had bursted pipes, flooding, et cetera, that have gone on. And while our custodians and our maintenance staff work very hard, you can only do so much with 90-year-old buildings that have water coming from all different directions, and the infrastructure is no longer at the capacity for the 21st century technology needs. So doing nothing forces continued spending to keep schools warm, safe, and dry. And it's really important, and I'm going to sort of reiterate this, and I know sometimes some of you think I'm a broken record, but warm, safe, and dry means you need capital reserve dollars. You cannot go out to bond for warm, safe, and dry. We do not have the capital dollars in our reserves. We explained that last time. To do that, you would have this, you would need to raise taxes to be able to do that. The RIDE allows you to bond for specific purposes. So one of the things that we've looked at in August, as we know, we've been down this road before, so we're getting better and better at it. The school committee determined which options they wanted to look for based on their constituency. So the school committee on August 5th approved the contract with SLAM and directed SLAM about the options that were in our virtual presentation, which is still available online and on YouTube. And it was provided at 3 community town halls, one at Richmond, one in Charlestown School, and one at Ashaway School. So what's our goal? Our goal is safe equitable, modern pre-K through 4 learning spaces. We've often heard, you know, I want maybe a 200 person school. Well, Richmond doesn't have that, so it's that parity across the regional district. We've heard that possibly there's people interested in bringing grade 5 back to the elementary schools. That would not be possible based on our current infrastructure. A fiscally responsible plan really needs to maximize our state support, which is right now 65%, and really be able to allow us to focus our resources less on our facilities and more on our teaching and learning resources. So we really want to build a plan that minimizes disruption and really delivers parity across the regional district. Next slide. So, question, has Charo been maintaining elementary schools? Absolutely. I can't say enough about our maintenance staff and custodians. They work very, very hard to ensure that these aged buildings are kept up for our students and our staff. But I'm sure if you have a friend at the schools, they're getting older. We've spent over $5 million, almost $6 million since FY20 on maintenance in the elementary schools. And we've included Hope Valley because we've only closed Hope Valley for now, not even a whole month. So we felt it was important that you understood that we were also paying for that work. Some of the basic snapshots, and this isn't everything. I mean, you can see intercom upgrades, mostly safety and security upgrades, ACs to ensure that when we're in June and September, that in May, oftentimes our students and faculty have those ACs in Keys area, security enhancements. We had Richmond 80% roof replacements. We've had septic and leach field updates, plumbing, so on and so forth. This slide deck is available online. For anyone under our Necessity for School Construction tab, if you would like to take a look. So the other thing I think that's really, it can be disappointing for me anyway, the capital planning attempts. When I arrived in Charahoe back in June of 2020, the district was already embarking on a stage 2 application. And you can see in 2019 through 2021, they had contracted with RGB and had spent $413,192 on a plan that never came to fruition, didn't go out to bond, it didn't go in front of voters because the community was not aligned into what, and the committee felt with COVID going on in the pandemic that they needed to sort of reset and rethink how they wanted to think through the options. Now, I think it's important to know that when we talked about originally in the 2024, we had requested $150 million in projects, which included our main campus, and we would repay approximately $28 million or $1.5 million. So since 2021, we have spent since 2020, we have spent $1.7 million on planning only.
Is that a new slide?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Next slide, Erin. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Purcell. So on this slide, you can see our capital planning attempts. This is just planning. Now, why do we have to have an architect? Why do we have to have an OPM? The state law, the General Assembly, says that that's required to be able to do these applications. Stage 1 is a facility review. If you went to our virtual presentation, we've discussed stage 1, stage 2. Stage 2 is a conceptual design to be able to show that we can solve the problem of our facilities, not the actual design that we will get. So in August, the school committee went for 3 options. So if you look at the next slide, thank you. We looked at the unified, we looked at renovation and gut, like new, if you will, and we also looked at the 3-school plan that you had seen before. So when you think about like what are the operational efficiencies that will come from new construction? So obviously we have less properties to manage. We have fewer boilers, fewer kitchens, loading docks, gyms, media centers, and we're able to then update in very specific ways versus the older infrastructure. Teacher staff not spending traveling time across buildings, food preparation, delivery services, storage, access to the amenities of all students regardless of where they go to school. They have the same opportunities. So the unified efficiencies do allow the district more resources to teaching and learning. The 3-school option is right now the most expensive. When we had 81% reimbursement, it was probably the best option back in 2024. Now, based on the new dollars and with this work, it looks like the unified has the most efficiencies for the district based on fiscal impact. Now, with that being said, it's the school committee that will decide which options they want to determine based on what they asked SLAM to put together. SLAM did not decide the options. That was asked by the school committee members at the table. So we also did a survey at all the meetings, and we also had it online regarding information about what people, feedback they had about what schools they would want the committee based on the options presented. Next slide, Eric. So we had about 106 responses as of this morning, and you can see very clearly that right now, many of our families, it was the unified, well, not many, I would say, based on the responses, you can see on the responses, it was unified, 3 new elementary, renovation, people needing more information, 11%, and the least amount wanting to do nothing. No options that were available. And reviewing, some of you who may remember, been around for a while, when we did this, we've had lots of surveys, over 700 responses, and oftentimes the number one impact is do what's best for the kids, but make it fiscally responsible, is really what the overwhelming response has been. Next slide. So the school construction funding and the way to get approved projects, we would have 61% of our baseline reimbursement and 4% for regional bonus. Eligible for reimbursement is listed in the chart. Interest is eligible for reimbursement. Land, and if we have to purchase land, if we need swing space, if we are the architects and owners, project managers, as well as bond counsel, to name just a few. The like new renovation got the new construction, 3 schools, all the unified option, all provide $2,100 per student for furniture and $3,000 per student for technology. So important to note that as we begin our Vision 2029, the Department of Education is very much interested in our current career CTE exploratory options. As many of you know, we have sort of brought our agriculture program down to the elementary and middle school level with our farm to school work, our composting, et cetera. So what we're looking to do is really take on our next strategic plan to think about the exploratory options we can provide. Right now, the law doesn't say you can't bring in tuition from other districts in elementary and middle. We don't have the infrastructure to be able to do that now, but planning future forward, it is an opportunity for us to think about the CTE options for those K through 8. Next slide. So this is just an example for discussion purposes only. This is not the actual numbers, but we wanted to make sure that we could give you apples, if you were thinking about it. This comes more towards the end of the stage 2, but we wanted to sort of give you an example. So let's say the unified school cost $117 million. Your average debt service with a 65% reimbursement is $2.7 million per year, $282 per year, $24 per household. So that just gives you the big picture. So the state would pay 65% at $76 million if it was a $117 million project, and the district would pay $41 million because we paid the 35%. So we also want to remind you that we will have debt paid off in 2027 and 2031 on our previous 3 bonds that are ready to sunset. And just to be clear, we'd be lucky to have a shovel in the ground by 2027 because the plan right now would be to put this in front of voters for November 2026. Next slide. One of the questions we get a lot is if the student enrollment is declining, why build new? So the age of the facilities is really putting a lot of pressure on the budget. As we all know, things don't become cheaper when things get older because they're not easy to replace. We've done lighting projects. We've done a lot of work here to be efficiency. I'm very proud of the work the district has done around becoming a green ribbon district, even with the aging facilities. But again, I mean, I don't know about you, but when a pipe burst at Charlestown, and I was glad that, students and teachers and staff were not in the hallway, but they could have been. And I don't want there to be a tragedy to happen because Pawtucket at the Potter Burns School, a ceiling collapsed. Like, this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. But like I said, I know that our custodians and maintenance staff are doing the best with what they have to do right now. But overall, we want to reduce the footprint. So regardless of whether it's 3 schools, 1 school, or a complete reno gut, you really, the footprint changes based on the efficiencies of the buildings, like heat controls. Right now you have window AC units in every elementary school. we all know that that's sort of literally money out the window. In the end, now the newer schools have temperature controls where they're creating those HVAC systems. So we've been asked the question, would RIDE support a renovation option? Just when I say renovation, not a gut, but more like a repair kind of fix. So RIDE does not recommend, and we have Dr. Carino here, because if you don't use the building for 25 to 30 years, when you repair it, then you don't get reimbursed. You've got to pay back the state. That money is no longer reimbursable. So we have to guarantee that our building is going to last another 25 to 30 years because we would have to pay off that bond. However, we can demonstrate a full-scale renovation similar to how they did in the Green School in Pawtucket. They're more likely, because that's what we call like a new renovation gut, a full-scale renovation. Potter Burns, I spoke with the Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Lee Rabbit. She called Potter Burns, let's just say a lot of ad hoc. They had to go out to bond twice. The floors are now are ramping up. The cafeteria is flooding again. So they learned their lesson, and then with the Green School, they did the renovation to gut, which was a much easier project to maintain based on their experiences. But at the time, Pawtucket as well, they were trying to figure out how to do this option, and this was I think it started, Mario, correct me if I'm wrong, Potter Burns, prior to the bond, the 2018, and then they went back out when those bonuses came back from the state. So they were able to sort of maximize their project when the bonuses were around. How are we protected against rising costs? The project budget that SLAM puts together that presents to the school committee in the stage 2 application must include a further inflation and price escalation estimates. So these contingencies are built into the planning process. Next slide. So very simply, our call to action, which is in front of the very important decision in front of the school committee tonight, is to affirm an option for the stage 2 decision and submission. Continue our community engagement. Community engagement doesn't end. Once the committee makes a decision, we will then be back out for community input on the option the school committee has selected with clear visuals, cost comparisons, and a lot of the information some of our members here are looking for. And basically, I ask that we keep the focus on our student experiences, our teacher effectiveness, and long-term stewardship. If our goal is to really focus in on our teaching and learning, then we've got to make sure we take care of the facilities so the money those dollars go into resources for our kids. And this is on the website. If you click that link to visit our website or under the Necessity for School Construction tab, you'll get the additional presentations as well as additional information of our previous. My favorite presentation is the 1975 to present presentation that sort of takes you through the years that this has been happening. I started in 1975, but it goes back to 1958. Thank you.
Chair, can I point one thing out before we move forward?
Yes, Mr. Zenya.
So as you start this, you're going to be discussing the 4 reports I showed. I just want to report 2. The 132 million should be the gut reno, and the 143 should be new. They're just I reversed them there, and then because I spoke with Holly earlier, and she pointed something out to me that made me realize I had just numbered. I had to put it in because they don't title anything when they're doing this for us. And then in report 3.
So can you say that one more time?
Yes.
Report 2.
So report 1's fine. Report 2, if you look at where it says 132 million.
Yes.
That's for gut reno.
Okay.
And where it says 143, that's for 3 new.
Does everybody see that? School committee members on your sheets? Okay.
And then in report 3, the column that says 132 should be gut reno, and the column that says 143 should be 3 new. The last 2 columns are just reversed, the label.
So the column that says 132 should say what?
Gut reno.
Okay.
And the same thing on report 4.
So can I go back to report 3? The 132 million is gut reno, the 143 million is.
The report 3 does not have
Headers, yeah.
So I believe something was sent out.
It was in it's in the shared drive, the
We
update.
have the report, but ours don't have headers on report 3 and 4. So it says FY28 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, but the top of each column doesn't have a header to say what it is.
That's probably, let's talk
Yeah,
about,
that's fine.
because those are example numbers anyway.
Yes.
I will update the shared drive while you have the conversation, because this is an example, this is not the numbers.
Okay.
This is just to, some individuals had asked from the school committee, and Mr. Zennian put it together. And it is in the FYI section of the packet, which is because it's not part of this presentation.
Okay, so before we continue this discussion, so in the preparation for the agenda for tonight, when the superintendent, Mr. Anderson, and myself met last week, we talked about sort of the flow. John, I'm addressing this to you. We talked about the flow of this conversation just to make sure that we were getting everybody's feedback. And your suggestion was that we take sort of one option at a time. And in hearing what you've said in previous meetings, that we have to have a motion in order to discuss. And I brought that to your attention, and you said something to the effect of, because this is a vote, we can have these open discussions without a motion. Is that correct? Okay, so did everybody hear that? I just want to make sure everybody understands that I'm not breaking any rules here of Robert's rules. Okay, terrific. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Laura to pick one of our index cards here, and then we'll talk about one option at a time.
Construct one unified school.
Okay, so construct one unified school. So I'm going to ask school committee members if they would like to talk about positives around the one unified school, challenges of one unified school, and then we could certainly open it up to the public for that option for their feedback. Okay, how does that sound? Okay, who wants to start? Pat.
From a cost perspective, not just upfront costs, but long-term maintenance, the one unified school definitely is much more manageable as far as you're looking at heating costs, one building, not 3 buildings, busing, transportation, everything is going to one building. And I don't know, I know the members in the audience don't realize that we actually went to a one unified school and toured it that is currently being built in Johnston. So we had an opportunity to see and feel what that would feel like. And we also had the opportunity to go look at a school in Pawtucket with renovations, and also one that was a complete new build. So based on those things, the only, and it's not my fear, I know it's the public's fear, is the transportation and the time it would, people being on buses for longer than 45 minutes. And that can be addressed by, if we have to add additional buses, that would be something that would go to the Transportation Policy Subcommittee, because nobody wants to see a child on a bus for that length of time. So that was basically my take. The big fears I think a lot of people have at one unified school, it's going to be enormous, and it's going to feel cold, and it's going to feel like an abyss. And honestly, when you go in there, nothing could be further from the truth. It feels intimate, it feels cozy, and I also like the fact that it's more you can. It's like if you had a home that had an open floor plan versus a home that has compartmentalized dining room, living room. So with an open floor plan with what the school that we saw, as far as teachers, when kids are traveling in the hallways, their sight line, they can see everything going on. Their sight line is not obstructed, which I think is beneficial. So that's my take anyway.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else? Jess.
I had a response to what you said, and it just left my brain. But so let me start with some of my notes that I have regards to the one school. This relates to the one unified school. The things I don't like about it are that we'll have 3 empty schools. I think that's difficult. That was a difficult part of just closing one school. It was difficult to think about having one empty school. But overall, it relates to one of my main reasons, or one of my main driving forces in this district is that the regionality of our district is our strength. The fact that we have come together to be a one school district, that vision is what drives our success. And I think that, you know, as Gina mentioned, it's a unique story of evolution, and I want that to continue in a positive direction. I think it's important to keep class sizes small, and I know that small buildings for smaller children are familiar to most of us, and that just has a lot to do with our own personal perspectives and experiences. I've also heard from people who have been in bigger districts and bigger schools. I was also in Johnston for that. Oh, and what it was that was very clear when you went there is that SLAM and Colliers worked with people in Johnston to plan that school for what they wanted it to be. It wasn't a cookie cutter based on designs. It was changed along the way based on feedback from their community and from school leaders and other people. That was also really apparent from the tour. But so yes, the small schools, I think it would be really important to keep class sizes small with a big school especially. But right now, as it was, like Gina mentioned, my kids have always gone to Richmond, where it's been twice the size of other schools. Now it's even more, has 500 kids. You know, recent rainy days, I'm concerned about my own child and his classmates who are in basement classrooms that have a history of flooding. They deserve our attention in developing a long-term plan. Currently, the pre-K through grade 4 projection is 1,281 students. The actual amount right now is 1,100. One of the issues is the land, not knowing where it is and how much it will cost. I do think that moving 5th grade to the site of a consolidated school is an issue for me. If we move forward with this setup, we'll have 3 schools for lower, middle, and high school students, along with buildings for Career Tech and CALA, and keeping the breakdown as pre-K through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12 would give us parity across the district with those 3 buildings. I don't see why, to me, that doesn't work on the goal of the minimized disruption while delivering parity, because it does, it increases disruption by moving 200 kids to a new school, a new building, and then it creates disparity because now you have an even bigger school for pre-K through 5, and then you have a smaller school for middle school, and you have the same size for 9 through 12. So I think if we keep it pre-K through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12, that's where the parity is. That's where the minimum disruption is for me. I do, of course, you know, appreciate the agriculture, hands-on opportunities, project-based learning, but I also know that CTE comes with costs. We see that at meetings where we approve grants for extra funding. I know that it also brings in revenue to the district. But I think for me, preschool is more important. That is what's changed in modern public education since 50 years ago, 90 years ago. Providing good spaces for preschool, which we can do with a unified school, inclusive classrooms, and alternative education, that would be important. As I mentioned, the empty buildings are a con, but I think that, you know, the operational efficiencies with consolidation and new construction allows us to thoughtfully focus on one location and carefully plan through every aspect of the school, from safety of the entryways to the parking, bus drop-off infrastructure, size of classrooms, opportunities for unique programs, all while the current students get to stay in their current schools without disruption. So the kids that are currently at Richmond, Ashaway, and Charlestown, they get to stay in their schools. There's no need to use a swing space while a school is being constructed. I think those are my main points. Sorry, I went back and forth between pros and cons. That was how I had my notes.
Thank you.
Written down.
Anyone else? Karen?
Linda.
Oh, sorry. Linda, I didn't see you first. Go ahead.
Actually, I agree with both what Patricia and Jessica said, and those are going to be some of my points, my talking points too. I guess I look at it from a practical standpoint too, that building one unified school, we probably could build it in a lot less time than trying to, because you don't have to displace students. I'm a little worried about not having a swing space at this point in time. So, but then even then, if we did find it, then displacing how many students while the new schools or the existing schools are being renovated. We're only talking about the unified, right? The pros for that.
Correct.
Okay. I also just from a personal perspective, and I usually try not to talk too much about that, but I actually worked in a school. I worked in a 3, 4, 5 school, grades 3, 4, 5. It was a school of 1,200 kids, and I never felt like it was a big school. Again, the points that Jessica and Patricia pointed out is that you can work along with the architects and stuff to make the school feel really small. And you can make it very, like we had houses, so we had 4 houses, and there were all grades were in each house. I'm just, probably telling you too much information, but my point is that it can work. And I worked there for 12 years and absolutely loved working there. So I think that there's so much more opportunity for creativity and how how the buildings to be. And I guess I'm going to like Jessica going back and forth. I'm not against the 3, rebuilding the three schools in each district, in each town, I should say. But I think your footprint there will limit you. I think there's less you can do probably creatively because the footprints are all odd. So,
Okay.
but that's,
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Karen?
Much like Jess and Patricia and Linda, I find the unified school the opportunity to build the real Charahoe community. It was as a parent who's had children go through the district and a child in the district. I was always concerned when my kids went to the middle school and they were going to be lost, and they would come home and they're like, "Oh no, so and so from basketball and so from soccer," and they really did feel that sense of community. I would love for that to start a little bit earlier. Safety, number 1 priority. A new school offers us the opportunity to provide a very safe, lockdown, building. In Johnston, it didn't feel like it was closed off, but the safety measures were there if you were looking for them, and it was very well laid out and designed very well. We should be doing more for our youngest students, our pre-K and our K. Building a unified school allows us to have that opportunity to build those spaces for our youngest learners. As Patricia said, Johnston, it was a big school, but when you get inside it, it didn't feel big. But it also brings all of our services together, and it brings the services to the students. We've talked a little bit about the Da Vinci space or the learning space, and I was having a hard time grasping that because I send kids to the art room, and I send kids to the music room, and I send kids across the building for other services. It was neat to see how those services come to the kids, and the kids just walk out their classroom and it's there. Like, it was really nice to be able to see the space as it is. The windows were amazing. The amount of natural light was just phenomenal. I think it increases learning time without really impacting the services. I think from a cost perspective, it's financially the best option. I have concerns, as Jess mentioned, about the 3, 4 empty buildings. How can the towns utilize those? But school safety and providing our youngest learners with the best opportunities. And just a little side note, in Richmond Elementary School, there's only 2 outlets per classroom. And so as we were walking around, it was like, oh, look, there's 5 on this one wall. And it was just kind of like, oh, you don't realize it. And the bathrooms, very well designed, like really thoughtful, designed. And it was nice how, I think Jess said this, or maybe it was Patricia, that SLAM and Colliers worked with the community to build the school that they wanted. And it would be nice to be able to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. Laura?
So I think that the unified school, there's certainly some benefits to it, and there's always some positives and negatives to each situation. The positives, I would say, is I'm all for moving the 5th graders back into the elementary schools, and I think that is something that, if it can be made a priority and if it can be made a reality, that we should certainly look into that as being incorporated into this option. You know, I spoke with my daughter and I asked her if she could go back in time. She's in high school now. That would she, and I, you know, kind of explained the scenario. And I said, would you have rather stayed in 5th grade in elementary school or just keep your elementary school the way it is? And she said, I would rather stayed in 5th grade for elementary school. Because she said that transition period for, you know, when you're 10 or 11 is tough on a kid that age. So, you know, I'm all about putting the 5th graders back into the elementary schools. And SLAM, when they did their presentation, they did explain that, you know, they basically would build up and they could accommodate that. And I think it also, you know, Gina had mentioned that it would allow for the expansion for the career tech program. So there's other options that would open up at the middle school if that space was freed up. So that's another positive, and it could generate, you know, more out-of-district students if we're able to expand that program, which, you know, would be able to offset some of the costs that are associated. So those are some of the positives. And I also think that, you know, if you have students, if you're in a regional district and everybody's going to the same school, then you allow that integration between everybody. And I think that that can be a good thing because all of our kids throughout the years, they usually play sports. They're usually on different teams, you know, soccer, softball, whatever it is. And they're kind of intermingling as it is anyway. So it, you know, there's some benefits to that. The downsides that I see is obviously the land. That's a huge piece of it. It's an unknown. And that is a little bit unsettling, I would say. The next piece would be that there, you know, it's even for the one unified school district, it's hard to know what the additional costs are going to be. So if you're looking at this from a budgetary perspective, there's efficiencies, but what are those efficiencies and how does that offset the additional amount of the bond that is going to be expand over the next 30 years? I think those are all important factors that should definitely come into play because it's, you know, if you're adding this on to the cost of the annual, you know, the annual budget, then you need to be able to say, okay, well, this is how much we would be saving. This is how much, you know, if these efficiencies would cause this, and you know, you just basically cancel it out to get your actual, a more realistic number of what that would be. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's mainly just the unknown factors, but there's definitely some benefits to it.
Okay. So if seeing no other hands raised, I would just like to, I'm sorry, were there other hands raised?
Right here.
Oh, sorry, Diane, I didn't see.
So I guess I have a question regarding the other bonds that are coming up due. How are those going to be incorporated into this?
You mean from a fiscal perspective?
So when you say incorporated, I'm not sure. I
Like,
understand.
are we including the bonds that are coming due and rolling them into this new bond?
No.
No. Okay.
So they're sunset, so, well,
They're sunsetting, so that's
we
why.
have three that are sunsetting, and then obviously the main campus bond is still, I don't know, did you want to add anything specific? But basically, you'd be sunsetting 3 bonds, but you'd still have the main campus one, but we've only gone out for a portion of that to make sure that you weren't accruing interest on the debt that we haven't used yet.
That's for the
Okay.
$15 million bond that we just,
We did it in 2 parts of 7.5 so that we could make sure that we could expedite.
Okay, okay. And do we know what the projection, estimated projection over the 30-year period of what we would actually be paying on this bond? Over a 30-year period?
We gave an example, so Mr. Denian had it in the document. Go ahead.
For the unified school with a 65% reimbursement.
And again, this is an example, not
This
yet.
is an example.
Example,
Discussion
right?
purposes.
Okay.
So on a $117 million bond with a 65% reimbursement, you'd be paying $2,661,000 a year for 30
Per
years.
year.
Per year for 30 years.
For 30 years, which comes out to probably close to about 137 million by the end
No,
of the 30
it comes out to just under 80 million.
What is it?
It's just under 80 million.
Because remember, we have the 65% reimbursement rate.
Well, 2.6 times 30 is 79,873,000.
Greg, can I ask a point of clarification on that? Are you looking at what report are you looking at, Greg?
That's report 4.
Are you looking at so you're telling me that on
The
that report?
117 million.
Yeah, the 117 million, that's not the first 2 columns of report 4?
No, you start at FY 28 and you go down to FY 57.
Sure.
It's
But-
column
But I've
4.
got 6 columns, right?
Yep, it's
Oh.
column 4.
Yes, sorry. Yes, column 4.
Column 4 is the 3,
Is the 100,
one new?
is the
Yes.
117 million for the unified.
So there were a lot of questions around hardcore construction course versus soft course. That's why I put in more than I would have normally have put in. So if you look at the first 3 rows, Tyler, that is for construction course only because when the architect made his presentations, he spoke about construction costs because that's what his expertise
All right,
is.
and this is where the headings missing is a big.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, but that does not include land, correct? That's just construction costs.
No. The
Oh, no, no, that's right,
117
that's right.
million
I'm
is
sorry.
Hard and
soft
soft.
course included,
Yes.
land put into it.
Okay. All right.
That's right, because we had the.
So I would like to weigh in on the one unified school and some things I may echo, and I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, but I do want to be on record. So we are a regional school district, and I think that we should embrace being a regional school district, and I think one unified school does allow us to embrace being a one unified school district. So I've also been someone who's been an advocate of fiscal responsibility, and every year we have town budgets that increase, we have school budgets that increase, and from the data that I'm getting, it looks like and it appears that one unified school is the most fiscally responsible option for our district. I do agree with Laura Chapman that keeping 5th graders in the elementary school has been a priority of mine. And I think that from a developmental perspective, from an academic perspective, that keeping kids in the elementary school in 5th grade is an opportunity for us to bridge the gap to middle school in a more intentional way. And I think that that's a positive for this particular option. And this is the only opportunity that we would be able to keep 5th graders in the elementary school is by one unified school. That's my understanding, that the other 2 options.
Footprints make it difficult to do it in the other option.
Okay.
Unless you do 3 floors, they said.
Well,
Which I'm not saying that's a bad
yes,
location, but-
however, it's also
Right.
the parking, the drop-offs become much more difficult. Like the space on the building is different, but that whole loading, unloading, and it becomes
Okay.
an issue.
So in moving on, if we are able to achieve operational efficiencies, which I really appreciate you putting up that slide, because I think a number of us asked about, we talk about operational efficiencies, but what does that mean? So if we are really serious and intentional about operational efficiencies, what I would like to see, and if it's not tonight, that it be sooner rather than later, that we codify what operational efficiencies mean. And if we are going to achieve operational efficiencies, that money that we save should be, identified in advance, and that those operational efficiencies, those savings go down to pay down the debt sooner. And I think that is something that we should consider as a school committee and as a district. I also have, in the past, have challenged the superintendent and her team to think big picture goals and think about sort of what the vision for the district is from a long-term perspective. And what the superintendent did say was that there could be opportunities around career and tech. And if we are able to do one unified school, that could potentially open us up to other career and tech opportunities. So, and I think career and tech is a strength. We have a lot of strengths in our district, but I think career and tech is one of our strengths. And I think that we should be investing in that as much as possible. The timing of buying the land, and I did ask Mr. Zenyan about this, and I think Gina last week. I've had so many conversations about these options that my eyes are crossed, but forgive me if I'm being repetitive. But in the timing of buying the land, and I know that that is a risk and an unknown, but from what Mr. Zenyan said, that there have been potential prospects that have approached the district about land that could potentially fit into the 27 to 33 acres. And the timing of this is important because I did ask Holly Demers this question in one of our tours this week about, so we go and move forward with stage 2, and we're showing RIDE that we're, in the process of negotiating land. And if that's not necessarily a done deal, if we move forward and bring something to the voters for November of 2026 and say that is one unified school, right? And if the voters reject it, we would have then a written agreement with a contingency that if the bond fails, right, if it's one unified school, then we're not going to be under any obligation to have this parcel of land for up to 33 acres. So we would have to negotiate that in good faith. And I've been told lots of times we have to trust the experts. So we're going to have to trust that if we do choose this option, that, Mr. Zenyan could get us over the finish line in that regard. And I believe that he could. And I'll just reiterate too that this option does not displace the kids. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of disruption. I mean, we've seen what happened during COVID. So now we're going to ask to displace kids again while we're, potentially constructing or adding and renovating. And I don't think that we should subject the kids to that. That's just my opinion. So those are my pros and cons on one unified school. I'm going to go to Tyler and then to Karen and then to Pat.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short. I couldn't agree more with what Linda, Jess, Madam Chair, Laura, Karen, Pat, and what you all said. Those are exactly pretty much everything I was going to say. So I really don't have much more to add outside of the fact that, to me, in the long run, this makes the most sense.
Okay. Thank you. Karen, I'm sorry. Karen, Pat, Craig.
I just want to add, because as we were talking, another feature that we should probably look at as a positive is a better safety plan for drop-off for parent and buses. What's happening at Richmond right now is not in the best interest of students or families. So I'm not really sure about Ashaway. I know it's tight, and I think the same is true at Charlestown, but having the buses and the parents on 138 is not great.
Okay. Thanks for that feedback. I don't think that my mic is working. Pat? Okay.
Okay, just something that Jess mentioned that I just thought about as well is what she said about the 3 empty schools. And I know that's a fear of people, is what's going to happen to these 3 vacant schools. And I do know they revert back to the town, and I can't speak specifically to the other towns, but I know the town of Richmond has been wanting to get a senior center. They've been fighting to get that. And they could take the Richmond school, if we went to one unified school, and repurpose that into a senior center. So I don't know, what the other towns, but that would be a net positive as far as I'm concerned for the town as well.
Okay. Craig?
Mario, this is a question for you. If the district chooses to go this route, and we also decide to incorporate 5th grade into the new facility, and the vacant space that's created at the middle school, Gina has an idea of what to do with it, but it doesn't come to fruition, and we have vacant space, would we be penalized by having vacant space such as that?
So the thought would be, and we would ask you as part of this process, like, what are you going to do differently? I think you alluded to the possibility of maybe expanding middle school CTE offerings. I know that you pull in, I think, $4 million a year in tuitions from other towns. Many of those kids knew they were going to come here in 7th grade. Why wait to get that money? Like that, we would expect it perhaps as being as part of your application that you would have a plan for those spaces as well. And I think this one,
I just want to make sure we're not going to get penalized down the road.
No,
If we decide to go this way and that doesn't really materialize. I don't know. It's an unknown right now.
Many districts recently have moved 5th grade back to elementary, so you would be following what many others are doing. I would also look at the melt rate. Like, I think we looked at it quickly. That
The what rates?
The melt. So I think it's like 7% of 4th graders don't like leave the district because they don't like. I would look at some of those melt rates or exit points. There's usually they happen between elementary and middle and high. I would look at those and see if that was also a way to keep some of those kids here, because again, that's revenue that's going somewhere else. So I would just factor that into your equation. Obviously, there's a cost to make that school bigger, but if more kids are staying and perhaps you're able to pull in several million in revenue for the middle school, then this starts to look a little bit differently.
Thank you very much.
So even with the career and tech opportunities, and I agree, I think we do an amazing job, and Director Auth leads that team amazingly. One of the things I want you to think about is South Kingstown's building a new high school, and their goal is to what? Bring their kids back to South Kingstown, right? So there are other districts right now, except for Charahoe and probably Pontiac-Gansett, that would like to shut the CTE gates altogether. But what we see is high-performing countries, high-performing states, the career and tech opportunities provide us, and it's no longer it's no longer the voc ed your parents grew up with. It is the future. When we talk about AI, Director Auth is working with his team as we speak around cybersecurity, around AI initiatives that are going to leap and bound the way that education is seen moving forward and what those opportunities mean for students. And I think just like Dr. Carino said, when you think about, we do get phone calls that say, can my student come there in middle school? And just so you know, there's no law that says that can't happen. Just nobody does it. So as you all know, I'm not afraid to try something new, but I do think that as you think back 8th grade, 7th grade, and you start to roll back and you bring that farm to school, you're going to really be able to merge your K through pre-K through 4, pre-K through 5, whatever you decide, through your middle school to have opportunities that will increase the sort of the national mark that Charahoe is already setting. I think we are a beacon across the state. I think we hosted our career and tech board meeting here. It was probably the biggest attended meeting that career and tech board has seen in a long time. And I think that they know that we have a lot of the programs that are very cost based, like the welding. But that's why you would think about more like, to our roots, starting with our farm to school or agriculture in our community just makes sense. And we were highlighted at the Health and Wellness Breakfast. I know Jess Purcell joined us, as well as many of our students, and Dr. Karakosian with Susie Scanapieco. And we were celebrated around, we had about 15 partnerships that brought us to that opportunity where a student had an idea to make lunch experiences better in the high school, and now it's a K through 12 opportunity with Waste Warriors, composting, native pollinators, our Tamaquag Museum work with the indigenous food to table. So I do think that it is while it's not something that the state is doing now, Charahoe could be a leader in that work.
Thank you. Okay, so Jess?
Can I just comment a little further? Do we have to decide on pre-K through 4, pre-K through 5 tonight?
No.
That can be part of stage 2. Okay. And I do appreciate this talk about CTE. And I think, it's even, I almost want to reframe it, not career tech, because like you said, it's not necessarily about a career. A lot of it is about hands-on learning, project-based learning. But at the same time, it's like, I want to see kids outside for recess, even though they're in 7th and 8th grade and it's not legally required.
Outdoor learning.
Outdoor learning, right. And so I think there's just, I want to make sure we also keep a holistic, and I know that you do, I'm just saying it out loud. So, okay, that's good. We don't have to decide on that tonight. It can be an ongoing discussion. Thank you.
Okay. So is there anyone from the public that would like to speak either positive or challenges around the One Unified School? Sharon, Town Council Member Davis, please.
Sharon Davis from Hopkinton. I handed out a 3-page thing that I'm going to read about. It says, starts with, since RIDE has mandated that school districts must have a 5-year capital plan, has created 900 square feet classroom space size standards, and does not want to fund maintaining school buildings that are greater than 50 years old without major renovations, the Charahoe School Committee has a tough decision to make tonight. By the same token, Charahoe residents cannot truly comment on the 3 building options presented by SLAM without further information on what is included in, quote, plus soft and other costs, unquote, for each of the choices, and how the choices will impact the residents' individual tax bills in FY28 and beyond. Attached to tonight's meeting agenda is a document entitled Bond Costs Memo. Report 3 shows total costs, including soft and other costs of the 3 options, as $117 million for one unified elementary school. And based on what I was given from Greg Zinian, this might be different. $132 million for 3 new schools. And if that is not right, that's fine. It won't make a difference for my conclusion. And $143 million for gut renovation of the 3 existing schools. It also shows the yearly bond cost to Charahoe after we receive 61% RIDE reimbursement, assuming a 30-year bond, fiscal years 2028 through fiscal year 2057, with a 5% interest rate. Report 4 shows the same information as Report 3 after we receive 65% RIDE reimbursement. For the Hopkinton residents, I worked with our finance department to calculate how the bond costs would impact our property tax mill rate for each option beginning in FY 2028, so that we can give the Charahoe School Committee a more informed response. We calculated Hopkinton's share of the bond cost based on enrollment at 38%, and based on equal thirds at 33%. So you have 2 different attachments. Either way, based on the various scenarios, we are talking about a range of yearly tax increase from $235 to $373 for a $350,000 assessed house. So I conclude, I ask everyone, is a less than $374 a year or $31 per month tax increase worth it to provide our students with safe, up-to-date schools that will last the next 50 years? My answer is a resounding yes, and my preference is either 3 new schools or 1 unified school. And that reason I picked the 3 new schools was it was the second value that Greg gave me, but that's different now. It means the renovation is the second less.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you, Counselor Davis. Okay, Mr. Colasanti?
Evening. You mentioned Johnson School. Mayor Palasine is doing a great job. He's a very hands-on guy. Their school is coming in on budget. But when you look at the Cranston School, Garden City Elementary School, the original bond was $55 million, and it's escalated to $70 million. Capital Projects Manager Ed Collins stated the district is doing away with traditional classrooms. That's why they need the bigger schools. Instead, the interior 2 floors will consist of 5 learning centers. They call them commons. Right around the corner is one of my businesses. I had project managers coming in talking about the construction of the Garden City Elementary School. These people do not hold a degree in education. Got into the conversation with them. They said they're going to have 2 to 3 classrooms, varying fourth, fifth, third, 3 different teachers, and they mentioned that there's going to be walkways going by on each side. Even they said how disruptive that's going to be to the learning with these kids. And then the idea is that the higher grade kids will help mentor and help teach the lower grade kids in this big group learn, think experiment. When you look at, and the Cranston School, even before it was opened, they actually went out for another $9.5 million bond, over and above what they already ran over. And one of those items that they ran over, there was one student that was a little hearing impaired. They had to put in the corridors electronics at a cost of almost $3 million for that one student, so that way they could hear better as they're walking through the school. Then you have the Warwick school system. The original bond was $350 million. That number now is escalated to $388 million, 39 million more than the original estimate. And on top of that, they're just actually taking soil samples right now, so they can be in the same predicament that Rogers is in, where they've got a pile of toxic material that they excavated from the new high school site. And the original cost was $4 million to get rid of it. Now that cost is escalated to $20 to $30 million to get rid of that soil. And that's going to be on the backs of the taxpayers. Then you have Warwick. Again, they have a bigger tax base than we do down here. Cranston has a bigger tax base than we do down here. Johnston, they could pass that bond very easily because they just got the new Amazon Center, which is bringing $7 million a year in tax revenue. So that was an easy call. Let's build a new school. They got all that new tax revenue coming in just from that one huge conglomerate moving into town. And besides that, they gave them $2 million in incentives, all right, for the town infrastructure. So there was a big deal, and that was a big deal for the town of Johnston. So again, Cranston, they have over 80,000 residents. And we've all driven through Cranston, we've all driven through Warwick. Look at the tax base that they have. We don't have the tax base down here. There was a comment made when we were voting on the town budget, and somebody yelled over to a group of us, if you can't afford the taxes, then move out of town. That's nice. You can afford it. I can afford it. What I'm doing is I'm advocating for the ones that can't afford that $300, $400, $500 increase in their taxes every single year. And that doesn't even include the increase of the 3-4% that we're going to see in the budget every year for the Charahoe School District, and it's not going to include the increase to the budget that we're going to pay on the municipal level also. So where's our tax base down here? You know, Charlestown pays 24 cents on the dollar. Richmond pays 80 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's crazy. It's ludicrous. And they keep preventing economic development to help offset that. Thank God we got Riverhead that just came in, but that money's already spent. That's not even going to help the Richmond residents in the discussion of this bond. That money's already spent.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Collins.
we have to be very, very careful. We don't have the tax base, and we have too many examples around the state where they've gone way, way over budget. We can't and we cannot afford to take that chance down here because we've got 3 separate towns. They're basically one mayor is watching over this. Who's going to watch over this? Charlestown, Richmond, Hopkinton? What's the coordination going to be between all the town councils and the town administrators or the managers, all right, to coordinate this? That's why Johnson's doing a good job. But some of these other towns are not so coordinated. There's a lot of infighting. What's going to happen here? Mike, what's going to happen? Are you going to take the lead?
Okay, yeah, you have to direct it to the chair. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. So I know that yes, hold on one moment. So I know that some of us visited Johnston, the new unified school in Johnston. Pat and I went to Winters and Potter Burns in Pawtucket yesterday. Was it yesterday? And just your comment about the unified space, so the space where, you know, kids can go out sort of in outside the classroom. So we can be very intentional in designing that space. In one of the schools, they don't really use it a lot. So they basically told us that they planned to use it more, but they don't use it a lot for whatever reason. So whomever is going to be involved in designing our space, I think that we have to be vocal and intentional on what our space how we want our space to serve and service the students. So thank you for those comments. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes, sir, right there with the glasses. And you're Mr. Way, is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you. So just state your name again for the record.
David Way.
Thank you.
What's the price per square foot of the unified school?
So
Same as here.
is there someone from SLAM that could give us an estimate on a price per square foot?
You must know it if you have it in the budget.
So we're not at that stage. This is the beginning. So stage 2 has multiple stages. So I don't know if that's something that, because right now they're determining which option to be able to plan for.
Okay, but each option has a dollar figure next to it.
Yep. That's why I just asked if they had an idea.
Mr. Rhodes, Ms. Demers, is Miss, okay, thank you. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Holly Demers from Colliers. There's a formula that's driven by RIDE based on what they allow per square foot, how many students, it's an actual formula. And then that is the number that you qualify for that many students. And on top of that, you then have that's including soft costs. So that number that you qualify for is construction and soft costs. And on top of that, you also get the furniture, the fixtures, you know, the IT budget, if your acquisition, demolition, anything like that is below the line. So it's an actual formula that's dictated by RIDE as to how much you qualify for. So when we did this, it was based on a certain student count, and that's where the number came from.
So,
Okay, does that?
So if you're planning a building, you should have a price per square foot.
But we're not at that point yet. We don't have.
Well,
a
if you're
plan.
going to put figures up there with a number next to it, and I want to make an educated decision, those are, they're inflated or inaccurate or both, right? So if you have a price per square foot, where do you get it from? A schematic design? Sure, I understand. They can go out to builders and get bids. They aren't going to be firm prices until you get to the construction document phase. Now, have you met with any builders?
I don't know that we're at that point in the process.
Okay.
So there's a stage 1,
So,
a stage 2, a stage
I'm on
3.
I'm on a building committee, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
I'm on a building committee, and we have planned out about a 10,000 square foot building. Reach out to builders, met with a few of them, several architects. We have a firm plan in place at around $450 per square foot. At the high end, $500 per square foot. If you take those numbers and multiply them out to over $100 million, you can imagine the square footage you could build. Now, these buildings have all the modern things that you would expect in a school. It's a gymnasium space, stage, classrooms, bathrooms, lobby, all that stuff, kitchen, all the fire suppression, all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff is done. What we've seen from builders that we've met with is there's tremendous savings in the engineering portion of it. When it comes to the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, often buildings are over-engineered today, and they can be dialed back. The other part is that architects, no offense to anybody in the field, but if you go to them with a budget, they should plan your building to that budget, right? Not go over it. There's often times where they can, and you have to rein back. It's a lot of value engineering involved. It's costly, it's timely. So I would ask, what is the budget for the unified school or the 3-school option or the renovation? And you should have an architect and a builder build you that building. And I've heard a few times now that 65% reimbursement, and who's it from?
The state.
Okay, so the state taxpayers is who it's coming from. This is not your money to spend, right? This just stresses the fact that you have to be incredibly careful with your money being spent. It's not yours, it's not mine. Like I said, I work for a school, we're planning this building, it is not my money to spend. This is family's money. So we go through all the options to do so and to make it as cost effective as possible. And the best solution for that was engaging builders early in the process. They have steered us clear of a lot of very costly things to make it, frankly, utilitarian building. Without all the bells and whistles, kids don't need too much. They need a safe space to be in. So consider it moving forward.
Thank you for your comments, and I would encourage you to, when there is open calls for the building committee, you're a great candidate for the building committee, and I'd love to nominate you for it. Thank you. Yes, so Laura wants to make a comment, and then I see Helen Sheehan's hands raised, Alex McKendall's hand raised, and Goldie's hand raised. Go ahead. And then we're gonna have to move on to the next option, okay? Because it's already 9 o'clock.
Did we, is what he was talking about with the builder, do we have that? Is that?
You have to pick an option first.
We have to pick
So
one.
you have the formula that RIDE has?
Yep.
And that for the unified and the new school, it would be, so based on the formula that's in the stage one application, so if you want to go look at it, it's on the RIDE website under School Building Authority. But overall, the numbers are in like today's dollars as an example, because you now remember, you also have the Charahoe Act. So your building committee is completely separate from your school committee. So there's a different set of rules because of the Charahoe Act. But in the end, the numbers we have right now are big picture because you have not selected the option you want them to go and find all this information on the land, the soil, all of the work. Because you're at the beginning stages this time. You did this a little bit sooner so that you would have more time with community.
Helen? 1 second.
Helen Sheehan, Richmond. I'd like to say that I do respect all of you for being on the school committee. It's a very difficult job. And so my concern, what I'm speaking about, is some of the decisions about school construction. And I'm mostly interested in what is best for the students. So I have a Master of Education, Master of Social Work. I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker. So naturally, I went to the research to find out what school sizes would give the best results for the students. So what I found was the research is very clear for elementary grade children that small schools produce better results. Clemson University study found that, quote, small schools have very strong advantages in safety, teaching conditions, academic performance, culture of connection and inclusiveness, learning choices, and curriculum when compared to large schools. The Institute for Local Self-Reliance, which they do favor small schools, so they have their biases, they say that, quote, one of the most effective ways to improve student achievement and curb school violence is to reduce the size of the nation's schools, end quote. The Education Policy Analysis Archives published a compilation of studies. They did like a meta-analysis. And they looked at school size, achievement, and achievement gaps. I did send a copy of that research to all of you, but I realized I missed one of you because I had the same name of somebody else twice. But I sent that to you. So page 2 of the EPAA article says, studies of student behavior indicate that smaller schools are generally associated with more positive behavioral outcomes for students. Larger schools are reported to have higher dropout and expulsion rates than smaller schools. In terms of student achievement in both high school and elementary level, the study reported an inverse relationship between the size of the school and school achievement. The larger the school, the lower the achievement of students, even when controlling for economic factors. The EPAA study included results from multiple studies. One of those was in New York. It found that lower achieving schools had an average of 776 students, while the higher achieving schools had an average enrollment of 447. And there were some other studies that did not find all of these same results, but one of them was comparing students who were applying for college. They were taking the SATs and the ACT testing. So to me, those weren't really helpful because only the students who are higher performing would be applying to college, and you'd always get the best of the students applying for that. So school size has an equity effect. That's in Bickel and Howley. The socioeconomically disadvantaged students are much more successful in small schools than in large schools, and they do more poorly than non-disadvantaged students in large schools. So I'm in favor of keeping the 3 schools. In addition, when I see that they're planning 900 square foot classrooms, that to me is a terrible decision. Because it was explained to me at the meeting in Richmond that the plan was to have the children working in several groups in the same room. Right now in our country, 1 in 36 children have been diagnosed with autism, as well as many other children having other learning problems such as dyslexia and ADHD. The concept of having all different activities going on in the same room, to me, leads to disaster, distraction. It's just a terrible idea. So the other thing is we've been given 3 choices. So the third one is renovate as new, and I don't think that most residents understand that you're not saying renovate. You're really building 3 new schools and calling it renovate as new. So the cost, that's a lot of money where we know our taxes are going to go up a lot. So I would like you to take a pause and come back with a 4th option, which is to do a real renovation with improvements in security, temperature management, electrical upgrading to include electrical supply for 21st century computers and other equipment. So if we have true renovations, we should not have to fall under the rules for build as new, and we should still be able to get the 65% reimbursement from RIDE. Also, I know that RIDE pushes electric heat. We should tell them no way because it's a cost of fortune.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate you. Thank you. So there was another hand up in the back. Two other hands up in the back, I think. Okay, so Mr. McKendall, the gentleman next to Mr. McKendall, Mr. Burns, and this gentleman in the back. Thank you. Alex, do you want to come forward? Oh, I'm sorry. So Alex, that gentleman, this lady, and then I'll get to Counselor Burns and that gentleman. Okay, so try to make your comments as succinct as possible because we appreciate your feedback, but we have a lot more discussion ahead of us. So go ahead.
Short and to the point. I've heard, I guess we're calling it hearsay, eminent domain. I'm speaking about it because my family for generations, multiple generations of my family have had their land taken from them through eminent domain. So, in good faith, can you say that you are not going to pursue an option of eminent domain?
I have no problem saying it. I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Also not in support of it, and there's no discussion about it being a viable option among anybody. Not just hearsay, it's rumors and false narratives.
Okay.
I would vehemently oppose it.
I would also oppose.
Yeah.
Can you all just raise your hand and not in favor?
Not in favor.
Is there
There's
any?
also land available, you know, like this.
That's fine. I only want to talk about this.
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Luzon?
can we just clarify one thing? I feel our superintendent would not have been doing her job if she didn't at least tell us that we do have an option of eminent domain. No, as soon as we all heard it,
Yeah.
Okay, no.
We're
that's
not on
great.
board.
I just wanted to hear it for myself. Moving on. And then my one other point is, we're talking about planning for this one new building. You're gonna come up with a plan down the road. It's not now. I always ask this, if you're gonna come up with a plan, you should have a set of goals of what it should be. And it should be in a priority order. So when, not if, you start to get pushed over budget, what's on the chopping block? What are you gonna cut and say, you know what, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do that. But for me, security's towards the top of the list, and something like, I don't know, a football field with turf heated and all that stuff. I know that's not a thing, but I'm just saying, you need to lay that out for people so you know what is the sacrificial meat on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman, was there another hand in the back? Okay, so Goldie, this lady, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you're after Miss Williams. Okay, thank you.
Goldie Williams, Richmond. How will you know that there'll be 2,108 students if students go to the charter and private schools? And Kingston Hill is kindergarten to 5th. The Compass School is kindergarten to 8th. Highlanders, kindergarten to 12th. I'm thinking of another school, but there are other schools. The Met is 9th to 12th.
So
That's where
your
mine is.
number of 2,108 students, where are you getting that number?
When I was at the Charleston school where the parents don't want to leave their school. That's how I got the school number.
So what Slam told us was that if it were, we have to look at demographic numbers, and they were planning their designs based on 1,281 students currently. That's not if we include the 5th graders back into the elementary school.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's not 2,108.
Okay.
So it was 1,281.
Okay.
Okay?
And the other thing is, I have a son who's not in the school with autism, ADHD, and a bunch of other things. Is there going to be in the classroom for special needs that design where they can go and do their work by themselves in private, a quiet room?
So we're not at that stage yet, but I am sure that will all be taken into consideration based on standards, what the students' needs are, plans, IEPs, 504s. So I'm sure that will be prioritized.
Okay.
Thank you, Goldie. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Candace Reynolds. I'm from Hope Valley. My concerns, one, is for the land. The tri-towns basically all began with farms. They were used for potato fields. They were used for turf. There's a lot of chemicals that were used. We already ran into that with Richmond School. Richmond School was contaminated. That's why years ago, that's why we had to put in a water system. That's why part of Richmond itself and part of this and the school is on private or town water. They had to put a whole system in for them. I feel that if you go the route of looking to purchase land, you really should take and have someone evaluate the soil deep, not surface, deep, to make sure that there's no contaminants that will affect it. Because as another person already said, there is another school who did not go deep enough. And they have a pile of contaminated dirt they can't afford to get rid of. It's too expensive. And it's right near the new school. Also, there's aquafills everywhere. And there's a lot of rules as to where you can and cannot build and what you can do on the aquafills. So that also needs to be looked at. The other thing is, I myself would rather see a fourth option where you give us an idea of what it would be to repair the schools that we have so that we can utilize them rather than throw them away. Hopkinton has 2 schools. You just decommissioned one of them. Hope Valley children were displaced. And I heard someone say they don't want the kids displaced. Nobody cared about the Hope Valley school children being displaced. They were separated between Ashway and Richmond. Those children have to travel a while to get to school now, more than what they did. I feel that the smaller classrooms, I've worked in the school system years ago. I feel the smaller classrooms, I've worked with children who had disabilities. And it really makes a bigger difference for those children. You put them in a larger classroom, a lot more children. There's a lot more distractions, a lot more chances for outburst. Not only is an outburst disruptive to that class, but when you add multiple classrooms in a large setting, it disrupts multiple classes now trying to learn in a larger setting in a room. I don't think it's a good idea to do that. In a perfect world, would I love to go with a brand new school? Yeah. But it's not a perfect world. We have a lot of people in our towns that are aging. There is very little to no relief for the elderly with their town taxes. The town taxes keep going up. People are having to choose whether they should take their medications or whether they should pay for their taxes to keep their homes. It is not a good idea to keep increasing our taxes to an extent where it'll be unattainable. I have 2 neighbors that are talking about moving because they can't afford it no more. They're seriously looking at one's going to Maine, trying to find a place in Maine because they can't afford to live here anymore. It's sad. I've been here my whole life. I've been here since I was 5 years old. And it would break my heart to see this town, the town of Hope Valley, Ashway, Charlestown, and Richmond, have people who have lived here their whole lives have to move because they can't afford to live here anymore because of the school taxes. We don't put a lot out to the other facilities. 20% goes to the fire department, which honestly is volunteer. Thank God for them and the work they do. We pay separately for them, and it's a minimal amount. The rest of it goes to the town workers, the plowing, the cleaning of the roads, the tree trimming, the office workers in the town halls, and the police department. They share 20%. The school is 80%. We can't keep going up on this budget. People can't afford to live here. It's really important. I'm not just talking for myself. I'm talking for my parents, my mother-in-law, neighbors that I see that are elderly that can't afford to stay here much longer if it keeps going up. I really hope you would consider looking at a fourth option. Maybe down the road we can do a better option. But right now, with the way the price of lumber is and the price of everything to build new, I don't think this is the right time to do it. I think we really need to table this, fix what we have, and then down the road, hopefully things change and we can afford to do something better.
Thank you. Counselor Burns.
Robert Burns, Hopkins Council Vice President. I live in Ashway, 445 Main Street. First of all, I'd like to apologize that when I'm done speaking, I will be leaving. I have other priorities. However, I think it's time the community, and I say Charleston, Richmond, Hopkinton, the community comes together and realizes, don't get me wrong, I'm not for one new beautiful school. I'm not for you building all 3 of our new schools. I'm not for any of it, to be honest with you. However, the further we kick this ball down the road, the further we're going to burden our children with this deficit themselves. We're all here for our children, okay? So would you rather put the burden on your own shoulders and suck up $300 a year? I apologize for those like my mother who's on Social Security, that can't afford that. However, do I want to see my daughters stuck with that burden and not be able to buy a home or live in our three communities? No, I do not. So I feel sorry for our school committee. You have a tough ass decision, okay, as to where us as counselors run into the same problems. People don't realize this isn't about a left and a right, okay? And I've said this from day one. There's two Republicans right there that I sit with. There's a Democrat that I became friends with, and there's another Democrat right here that I became friends with. This is not about party lines, people. It's time for you to step up to the plate, do what's right for our children. That's what we are here for. This is not about Frank over here and Jill over here, what color they can paint their damn house tomorrow. No. It's about what our children can do tomorrow in our community. You want education for your children? Everybody wants to beat up Gina. Everybody wants to beat up the school committee. Okay? Yes, I've had personal problems with you. We've had our arguments. Absolutely. But this ain't about you. This is about our children. You want education for your grandson? You want the best education there is? Make the best choice at this table. And I'm not telling you what that best choice is. I'm not going to stand here and call you a traitor for making your decision. Okay? Your decision is your decision. And I appreciate it if you would do the best that you possibly can. But think of your children and the cost that it's going to burden them, not what it's going to burden me, who a gentleman who is actually, as everybody knows me, is closing on his house this month in Hopkinton. Okay? So I'm not worried about my taxes. I'm worried about my daughters paying them taxes.
Thanks, Counselor Burns. Appreciate it. Sir?
The counselor a question real quick. You better be quick.
Hold on. Sir, hold on one moment.
I caught you. So you guys in Hopkinton are renovating Crandall House. The house in Crandall's Field, not Crandall House. How's it going? How are the renovations going? We are under budget. Yay! But
I have my opinions on that situation.
Are you being surprised by things that you're finding inside? Is it?
So you're talking about cost-wise.
Well,
Yeah.
in summation, because that's one of the options we're looking at. So I wanted to get a real-time opinion from you. Recent project, big town renovation.
Recent project,
How's it
I
going?
would say right now,
So
we're
give us
under
the short
budget.
version.
Under budget. And a gentleman who works in construction, licensed contractor in the state of Rhode Island, have been for almost 20 years. Your prices are not going to get any better. Everybody says prices, prices, prices. I'll tell you right now, I'm in the steel trades. I buy on the average of $50,000 worth of steel a month. Okay? It's not getting better. It's not going to get better. Your COVID costs that everybody complained about, they're here to stay. They're not going to drop. I'm sorry. Yes, everybody here knows I voted for Trump. But I'm sorry. No matter how refineries you open, you're not going to get rid of the past. Your car is never going to come back to a $5,000 car. You are still going to buy a car for $50,000 to $100,000. So no matter how you look at it, don't look at it what it costs today. Don't look at what it costs tomorrow. Look at your children.
Thank you, Counselor Burns.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Your name for the record, please?
Simon Manlove, Town of Hopkinton.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about some data regarding the transportation to the 3-school model versus the 1 unified elementary school model. So in order to do this, I have taken the current bus schedules from the high and middle school unified campus and the 3 elementary schools, and I'm going to be basing all of my findings off of exactly that data.
Okay.
To begin, a summary of what the current transportation is. For the high school, the maximum time of a bus to its furthest stop is 57 minutes. The minimum time is 32 minutes.
And where are you getting this data from?
The the bus schedules, they are published online, they're public.
Is that from the bus coming from the depot to that furthest house out? Or
That
is
is
that
from
furthest
the
house
bus-
out to here?
That is from the bus departing the bus circle in the afternoon
Okay.
to the furthest stop listed, the
Thank you.
furthest house.
Awesome.
So for the elementary schools, the shortest time is 31 minutes. The longest time is 73 minutes. Again, for the middle and high school, the median time is 49 minutes and the mean time is 46.7 minutes. For the elementary schools, the median time is 48.5 minutes and the mean time is 49.3 minutes. So right now in the district, we are looking at our middle and high school students have a shorter bus ride than our elementary school students, both on average and in the longest case. I know the number's been thrown out a lot today of 45 minutes as the maximum amount of time that parents and people in the audience want their kids to be on a bus. And I know that that also came up at the individual town meetings regarding these plans earlier this month. So currently, if I look at a 45-minute cutoff, 76% of elementary school buses are at or greater than 45-minute total journey length. That's kid on the bus. And 60% of the middle and high school buses are at that. If I look at 50 minutes, it's 48% for both. If I look at 60 minutes, 1 hour, it's 14% of the buses for the elementary schools and none for the middle and high schools. Long story short, there is one sample bias here. For elementary schoolers, you do have the monitors on the bus, and that's going to make each stop a little bit longer. So that is a change in the sample that you have to be aware of. But you can control for that by changing the amount of students you put on each bus, given how, at what level you're currently busing. Given that, the long story short is that it is likely to be more efficient time-wise to get a student from the school to their home and vice versa in the morning to have a single unified school. By a few minutes on average and by 10 to 15 minutes for the longest possible bus time for any student.
Thank you.
I actually have a second half of this presentation.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
The second thing I've done with this data is that I have correlated bus times to a furthest point that from the school that the bus reaches to the driving time given by Google Maps from the school to that location on a direct route. I could explain my methodology if you wished, but end result, it's about 2.25 times the time that the bus takes for a car going straight there. I've used this information to make a map of the school district with two concentric areas on it. An area in which you could put a school in that area, and your longest bus time for anywhere in that area would be 55 minutes. Okay. Approximately. Give or take a couple minutes, and I haven't made bus routes. That's a lot of work, and someone has that job.
Can we
But
hire
an
you as a
area in
consultant?
which it would be...
Mario, are you paying attention?
But an area in which it would be feasible for the maximum elementary school bus length from a single school, to and from a single school, to be 55 minutes. I've also done the same for 65 minutes, which is closer to the current elementary school bus times and is longer than your current maximum from the middle and high school. Looking at these areas, I'm not going to publicly show this map. I've been advised not to because of concerns about land pricing, which makes sense. But if I look at this map, the 55-minute area has a total square mileage of 10.8 square miles, which is about 8.6% of the district, and includes areas in all 3 towns. The 65-minute boundary is 19.8 square miles. That's 15.7% of the district, and also includes areas in all 3 towns. So, end result. The best busing situation you are going to get is if you put all of the kids into a single unified elementary school. That elementary school can be placed in any of the 3 towns and still get that benefit. And while I am not an expert on the topic of land ownership, purchase, or management, I believe it likely that it is possible to buy land within this area such that you would get the benefits of the busing situation that I have described, and you would have available land currently for purchase.
Well, I know I say no clapping, but very much.
I know a company that might be hiring
Chair.
if you're interested.
Yes.
Charahoe alum.
Excellent. You are very impressive, Mr. Manlove. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next. Oh, Mr. Avedisian, did you have a comment? Okay, you have a talk about act to follow here.
I know. I'm not even going to try. So I'm Greg Avedisian. I live in the town of Ashaway, and I am very grateful for my counselor's comments earlier. And I will briefly echo some of them. It's not going to get cheaper. And the thing that, especially from some of the people who were saying why we can't do this and why we can't do that, is it's now or never. If we don't pull the trigger now, it's just going to get more expensive, and the need is I consider dire already. It's just going to get worse. And you're right. He was right. It's about the kids, and we can't afford to wait any longer. The schools that we have, as hard as the administration has done to keep the kids safe, they're not anymore in these schools as they exist. I have a couple questions, I think primarily for Greg, and I would just like some clarification on the sunsetting bonds and what effect that would have on our ability to, if it does at all, pay a future bond. And then I was also wondering if you would explain exactly how the bonding works. So the town commits to, or the district commits to a bond for a certain amount. It's based on the interest rate. The district pays a monthly or an annual amount. At what point does the reimbursement start to kick in? When do we see that, or is the reimbursement offset by is it calculated into the payments that we'll make?
So it's calculated into the payments you would make. So, for example, the prices I gave earlier for the unified school would be after the 65% reimbursement. And we would pay that. What we ran was 30 years. What I think Gina said, we have 3 bonds that are ending in after FY27. You have your 2010 A and G bonds, which were used for your campus 2010 projects. Right now in FY27, we will pay roughly $577,000 on the 2010 A, and we'll pay $471,000 on the 210 G. And then we're also going to pay $693,000 on your Caler 2017 bond. And that, though, after FY '27, those 3 bonds are finished. What gets a little more complicated is that they will, those 3 bonds will sunset. So, we will actually, every year when we paid into the bonds, there's principal that has been put aside. When we pay off the principal after FY '27, our last payments are due on June 30th. This is an approximate number because it is based on the interest we're collecting on these 3 bonds as we're having money put aside. After it pays off, we will have approximately $800,000 to $900,000 that we could use to pay off potentially the 2027 or what you're looking at in 2028. Because in 2028, you still have your J2 bond, which is approximately $800,000. You have your Campus 25 bond, which has been broken up into 2 bonds. The current $7.5 million bond is, we're currently paying this year, we're going to pay $375,000, which is an interest-only payment. And then starting in FY '28, we will pay $1.1 million on a 10-year. But in FY '28, your other $7.5 million for your campus is going to kick in because it was a $15 million bond approval. So you're probably looking at in FY '28, about $362,000. And then that will bump up in FY '29 to just over $1 million. So if you look at your total debt right now, in FY '27, it's about $2.9 million. In FY '28, it will drop to $2.3 million. And then in FY '29, it goes back to $3 million. Because you're going to have your second part of your campus 2025 bond put in place. So that will continue until they're paid off. Those are 10-year bonds. And then anything you're going to do with new construction for your elementary schools, I would imagine you would be looking at a 30-year bond. We do have bond counsel here that can probably speak more to it, but that's pretty much a...
I think I'm kind of jumping the gun, but I know that this is a discussion that hasn't really been made publicly, and, people throw out numbers, and I think they pull them out of their hat a lot of the times.
Just for a clarification, I'm sorry, I just want to say, I thought we had 2 for 2027 and 1 for 2031.
So you're putting the 210A and G as one.
Got it, okay.
But so you're technically correct, they're one, but we pay them separately. So in my world, they're 2.
Okay.
So it's,
Finance for the education.
so yeah, so you combine your 2010, when you talk about it, it's one bond. But when we pay, it's broken down to the A and the G. So we pay it separately, so I look at it as 2.
All right. So I mean, briefly, because I know we have a lot to do, but is there any money that we currently paying towards these bonds that once they are sunsetted can be applied to future bonding? Or doesn't, or
There will be when the 2010 and the Caler 2017 bonds sunset, there will be some money. There will be, it could be 800 to 900,000. It depends on interest rates. It depends on what the principal we owe on it. I cannot give you an exact number right now, but there will be a little offset potentially for FY '28.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just in closing, I think I'd like to echo Mr. Luzon's comments at the last meeting. Please make an informed decision, and whatever you decide, just get behind it, because the time is now. I mean, we can't afford to wait any longer. I didn't think I was going to be in favor of the one unified school, but everything I'm hearing, it seems to make a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Laura? Oh, was there somebody else? Tyler. Mr. Champlin.
No, Madam Chair, first
Yes,
of all,
sir.
in the interest of time, the fact that it's 20 to 10, and I think we have a 10 o'clock rule, right? We're gonna have to make a motion to go past that.
Yes.
Don't have to.
I like where you're thinking, Craig. I feel like this has been a pretty robust discussion. Madam Chair, I'm comfortable to go ahead and make a motion to move forward with the option of one unified new school.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second by Mr. Luzon. And a third, that's right. Thank you, Linda. So we've had a lot of discussion about this, so I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else before, okay?
I would like to say something.
Okay, Polly would like to say something. I don't know if any other school committee members want to say something, but then Mrs. Colasanti would like to say something, I think, before we vote. Polly.
I've done a lot of listening to community members, the school committee members, bonds that were put out in the past. And I just think we're going to be most successful at renovations. Only because, and this is just not my opinion, which way I would vote. It seems there was a lot of pushback on the one unified school. 3 new schools were voted down. I think we would have more success if we went with renovations. Just because what happens if we put out one unified school and we vote on that and we put that out to the public and it gets voted down? So I'm considering all these factors when I'm looking at my vote tonight. What are we going to be most successful with in the near future for our kids to do something to get these, and our teachers and our staff, to get these buildings where we need them to be? And that's just the feedback I've been getting, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Polly. So Laura and then Catherine.
So I just wanted to clarify real quick, Greg, if you don't mind. Report number 4, when you were talking about the 117 million for the examples that you gave us,
Yes.
you said that column, you said 2.6 million, which is the middle column, or the 4th column over.
Yes.
So that's the unified school, and that's showing as the second most expensive option. So the first most, according to the chart that you gave.
No,
for-
so it gets that chart, if you look at columns 1 through 3, that is construction cost only, because there was so much talk around when the architects were presenting that they were only presenting construction cost.
Okay.
So if there hadn't been so much discussion around that, I wouldn't have put those numbers in. I would have just given you columns 4, 5, and 6. Column 4 is your unified. Column 5 is your gut reno, and column 6 is your 3 new.
Thank you.
So I do apologize, but I felt if I didn't put those first 3 in, I would have heard you're hiding things, you're not being honest.
Let's get close to 10.
Yeah. So, and that's at 65%, and then the report 3 is the same thing at 61%. So you have all the numbers.
Okay.
I'm not guaranteeing you 65%. I'm just showing you what you have.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. And then the other question I had, which this wouldn't be for Greg, but the, which I guess would be around the renovations, and I guess we're not talking about that?
No.
Well, because we have a motion on the floor for one unified school right now, so, is there anybody else from the school committee?
I'll wait I do have one thing to say, but I'll wait.
Okay.
I think you can say.
Yeah, I think.
Polly just said, you can say.
I mean, because Polly just changed stuff too.
Go ahead, Laura, if you want to finish your thought.
I just, with the renovations, I understand that the concept behind that was that you would bring it down to the studs and basically build new. And my question is there any flexibility within that? Because if you look at a lot of the other school districts that did do the necessity for school construction and they took out these bonds to build schools, they kind of did like this mix and match approach where they said, okay, well, this school we're going to do this, and then this one we're doing this. And, you know, some of them ended up with one new elementary school plus additions, and then one of them needed a lot less work, so it made it a little bit different. But it sounds to me like that, and if I'm understanding this correctly, and forgive me because I was not at the August meeting, so I wasn't present for that, but I'm just trying to understand if that is a possibility within those renovations, if it was just meant to say, okay, we're gonna do this so that we can incorporate this in case it's an option, or if it's, no, you actually have to tear it to the studs and only do that. You don't have the choice of actually only doing $8 million of renovations on Ashway, is that correct?
So does somebody want to clarify the sort of directive that came from the Necessity for School Construction Subcommittee, that it was the sort of the directive was like new?
It wasn't a directive from necessity. It was actually the school committee was able to talk through the options. So that was different. We did that differently this time to ensure that the school committee was the one making the options. And at that meeting, I also had asked if there's anything else on the table, not to say no, because then we had to go back and work out the contract so that they knew what to do. But the reason why the just sort of like the repair your buildings kind of idea, you would need your capital reserve. You couldn't go out to bond because you'd have to guarantee that building would last 30 years. So this is what happened, like when we talked about the Potter Burn School, beginning, I don't know when, but it was pre-COVID, they had started a repair and found all kinds of, let's say, fun things happen, with old buildings. And then they had, when the state came out with the bonuses, they rebonded again. But even after they rebonded, they were still doing that sort of repair, fix, renovate. So I think what you're talking about, and they're still seeing flooding, floor warping, all things like that. So they ensured at their second project with Green that they went to renovate down to the studs, because in the end, the buildings are so old and the infrastructure, they're not built for the 21st century and the work that the teachers are asked to do now. So I won't speak for school committee members, that's up to you guys, but we did specifically say if there was any other options the school committee wanted to review, that needed to be determined. But the repair only was because you would have to have money in your capital reserves and you do not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Catherine?
Yes. Catherine Colasanti from Richmond. So, first of all, I'd like to say that to me, just this whole mantra of old, our buildings are old, just does not renovate with me. My favorite places to walk with my husband on a Sunday afternoon are places where there are beautiful old buildings everywhere. Anybody with common sense, and unfortunately common sense just seems to sometimes get lost when something is repeated over and over and over, and it has been said, repeat something long enough and the people will believe it. So the whole old thing to me is not even an issue. But let's get down to something more pertinent. We also heard I heard when I was on the school committee, don't pay attention to the Jacobs assessment. Then lo and behold, when I looked at the 2025 Necessity of School Construction Information and Instructions, there was a lot of reference to the Jacobs assessment. So clearly it was given a lot of credence, or they would not be discussing it in the applications as they have. One thing I would like to say is that in the Jacobs assessment, it talks about a facility condition index score. And it says, financial modeling has shown that over a 30-year period, it is more cost effective to replace than repair schools with a facility condition index of 65% or greater. So if you have a facility condition index of 65% or greater, that is the point where they say, the experts in that field, that that's where you want to start looking at it. So since we're hearing how dire our schools are, what do you think our school's facility condition index is? And then I imagine you'd also assume that the oldest school has the worst one. according to the mantra and what we've heard over and over in this community? Well, interestingly, the younger school, the Rise building, that was,
Doesn't exist.
okay, well, the Rise building that was built in 2002, when, all right, Cala now, yes, but according to the Jacobs report, when it was done, they did evaluate that building. When they evaluated that building, built in 2002, they gave it a facility index score of 60, which was close to
Those were
65.
mobile trailer
trailers.
classrooms.
Okay, well anyways,
And that became CALA.
okay, so anyways, but
And they
still,
did replace it.
okay, so they gave that though a 60, and that was built, that was in 2002. But again, going back to my original point, is you would think, hearing how dire our schools are, that we would be near or maybe over that facility condition index score of 65. But what do we have? We have Charlestown with 32. We have Ashaway with 40. In our oldest school, Richmond Elementary School, 37. If you go to Ride's facility map and you put a cursor over the bottom part that's green, and they highlighted green the schools that were in the top half of the better facility index scores, you will see that Charahoe was rated well. School committee members were not at all clear on what renovations meant. I know because after I attended the first Richmond Elementary School presentation, actually I need to correct that, I was only able to get there at the tail end. But at the tail end, I was afforded the opportunity to talk to Mark Rhodes from SLAM, and I was also afforded the opportunity to talk to a woman that came into the conversation that he invited into it, and also Mr. Zenian. And what I found at that meeting was that the renovations, because I started asking them about renovations, I found that the renovations had to be, again, one of the 3 options that even I received an email from you, Louise, telling me the 3 options that were going to be considered, and one just said renovations. Then it was explained to me clearly at that meeting that the renovation option was actually had to be renovate to be like as if we were doing new, meaning, and it was very well explained to me, that presently our classrooms are about 550 square feet per student. And then if we were to renovate like new, now you have to bring that up to more like 950 square feet. So that's a huge difference. And that was really very shocking to me too, because again, while on the school committee, all I kept hearing was we have to right size our buildings. So then the next thing you know, you're hearing that right sizing your buildings is almost doubling your classroom. And I understand the whole 21st century learning thing. I went on Gilbane's construction site. I saw the projects they have done in the state, such as North Providence. I saw the classrooms, and I would echo the sentiments that have already been expressed. Personally, I could never learn in that kind of classroom. When I was in college, I would always go to the quiet floor, and I would prefer cubicles where you had something on each side of you so that I would not be distracted. And I have also taught in large areas, large spaces, and I would be thrilled, all right, over the years of teaching, when I would have a small classroom. I would be thrilled when I would get that because of the fact that it minimized distractions. And I know there's talk about group learning, and that's another thing. There has not been any community discussion on that, but that is something that is not necessarily, just because it's the new way, something that's advantageous to our children. My daughter, when she was in Charahoe, experienced group learning, and every day she came home, because there was a lot of new educational things coming out at that time, I would ask her in each classroom what was going on and what they were doing. And when she explained what was going on in group learning, she made it clear to me it was not
Catherine, you're
helping
way
her.
off topic,
So, all
honey.
right, yes, that's true. But
Chairs
that-
roll.
back to the facility
I'm just
index
trying to be
was-
respectful because
And
I
other
listen to
people
everybody
did talk
else,
a
so
long time.
she has the floor.
So,
So Catherine, just if you
So,
can give
I
another.
will say also that there's also a thing that is very prevalent in any institution. That is, if you are in a minority opinion, you better keep your mouth shut. And if you are a person that goes with, you know, the high on the hierarchy, then you're gonna get yourself a lot of good points. And I've read about this, Ted Sizer and his coalition for essential schools, and how it was even said to use behavior modification on the teachers to get them to go along with you. When my daughter was in school and a teacher, all right, was not doing the things that were being proposed that I felt were not in her best interest, I went to see that teacher. And I said, I want to applaud you and thank you. And she said, I've been a teacher for years, this stuff isn't working, but I'm feeling like there's so much pressure on me right now that if I don't do it, I'm going to get a bad evaluation. There's a lot of factors that go into these things, and they're not all in the best interest of the children. But just I'll add just a few more things.
No, Catherine,
All right, one
you're
more
gonna have to
thing
wrap
then.
it up.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
In South Kingston, the schools that have been vacated because they're doing a new school, they are now, and I saw the public meeting in South Kingston, being evaluated for affordable housing. And we have, interestingly, a general law that is going to say vacated schools need to be put on a list to be considered for affordable housing. In the case of a municipality that has less than 10% of low or moderate income housing, the municipality shall provide the department with a complete list of buildings abandoned or no longer being used by the district. Now these, and again, they're doing that in South Kingston right now. They're having community meetings on this. And
Okay.
they're incentivizing developers, but bottom line is they are good enough to be used for housing. Hope Valley's good enough for somebody else to look at. But for some reason, our buildings we think are not good enough to be renovated. And again, facility index scores say otherwise. Just one last point.
Nope,
that-
Catherine, I'm gonna
okay.
hold you right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
I've
thank
given you a
you.
lot of latitude, and I appreciate the information, and I think the school committee appreciates your insight. Oh,
Chair,
okay.
Chair, can I make a motion to go past 10 o'clock?
We have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor, so I can't entertain another motion right now.
It's 9:56.
No. So Catherine, can you come on up, please? Thank you. I'll get there.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I know that you see some of these Charahoe United shirts, and I know it makes some of you uncomfortable, which is really unfortunate because it says Charahoe United, and we're willing to work with everybody on what's best for our students. So I can assure you, you've had a lot of robust conversation. It sounds like you're leaning towards one school. That wasn't my first choice, but I absolutely can rally behind that because you need to make a decision. What I will ask of all of you, though, is don't do what happened last time when I was the chairwoman of the school committee. Don't say you're going to do something here and then subvert it outside of these walls. So I hope you can all come to a conclusion, you can all come to a decision, and you can actually support it. Catherine gave you great talking points about what you can expect in terms of the resistance to any plan going forward. Polly has done that too. You got the Hopkinton Town Council on board to do something, which should be a major win. No, 4 of them said that they support it. Yeah, 4 of them. So that's a win, feather in your cap. I hope you can get it done. And you've got a lot of people here who are ready to support you.
Thank you. I think it's presumptuous, though, that you say that the green shirts make some people uncomfortable. They don't make me uncomfortable. I appreciate the input, so thank you. But I think that's presumptuous of you to say that.
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Luzon.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of,
Can you redo the
Yes.
motion again? It's been a long time.
Madam Clerk?
Motion to move forward with one unified school.
For stage 2.
For stage 2, we should probably clarify that for stage 2.
Member Chipman, and seconded by member Lau. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of one unified school to present to RIDE for stage 2?
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Okay, a roll call vote. I'm going to start with Mr. Champlin.
Yay.
Lyle, yay.
Purcell, yes.
Hopkins, no.
Dinsmore, yes.
Chapman, yes.
Teff, no.
Reynolds, yes.
Luzon, yes.
Phelps, no.
Pouliot, yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Motion carries. So next,
Madam Chair?
we need a motion to
Madam
extend.
Chair, at this
Yes.
time, I'd make a motion to extend our meeting past our 10 o'clock statutory deadline before we all
Second.
turn into pumpkins.
So we have a motion and a second by Jess. All in favor of extending our meeting beyond 10 PM?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well,
So, okay, so we have yeses, please raise your hand.
Come on, Larry.
Want to finish?
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, I know.
All right, do you have that? So it's. Correct, our no's. And then, those not in favor of extending beyond 10 PM? Holly,
Consistent, if not, nothing.
Diane, and Larry, are you saying no? You're saying no to extend beyond 10 o'clock. Okay, so those three. Motion carries to extend beyond 10 PM. If members would like to depart, that's totally up to you.
Ready to go?
All right, so, next up is the approval of the vote for bond counsel. Karen Grandy, if you could come to the podium. Karen has been our bond counsel, and I am recommending approval of Karen as our bond counsel. She has a flat rate of, I believe, 11,000. So we can make her work as hard as we want to, for 11,000. And she'll be back next month, so you can actually talk through things that you want in the bond legislation. This is just to promote her as counsel.
Did someone second
So-
that?
I did.
You did,
Okay.
yeah. So can I ask a question?
Yes, so we have a motion and a second.
We literally just approved an option for stage 2. Can you walk me through the timeline of what we're looking at here moving forward for the rest of this process, including and up to the vote in November?
So I'll start, and then Karen, jump
All right.
in if I don't get all the steps. So
You've
for
been through
next
this
month,
before, so I'm confident you'll do a nice description.
so next month, you would be asked to provide Karen with your requirements in the legislation. So, for example, we all know what the Charahoe Act says as an aggregate. That is your that is your minimum floor. Because this is state legislation, then she can put in anything specific that the school committee wants to see in that legislation, because it goes to the General Assembly. The goal is to have it into the General Assembly's hands for the January open session to ensure that we can push it through the General Assembly so that we have a ballot question ready to go for our towns for the November election. So Karen drafts the legislation after you provide her with sort of her marching orders in November. We would get that to you December if you all make that decision, and then in January, we have to do sort of the little bit of the homework around our letters to the General Assembly, our letters to who's going to promote the bill in the House, in the Senate. Typically, what we do is we reach out to Senator Goose, Senator Morgan, Representative Carter, Kennedy, and Spears, and then they rally behind that to ensure that it sees its way through the General Assembly. They ask that we speak on that, very briefly when we are at the State House. And then after that point, when it's passed, Karen works with us and the town clerks at the Board of Canvassers to ensure that the election question is correct. We sign off on that. It gets moved through the Secretary of State's office, where then they print the ballots for the November election. Did I miss anything, Karen?
Yeah, well said.
All right. What might be a stupid question.
No such thing.
We're presuming that RIDE approves our stage 2 application, correct? Because if we do all
They
this
know we're
bond
pretty good at
stuff,
this by now.
okay. But I'm saying if we do all this stage 2, if we do all this bond stuff, and then RIDE doesn't give us the approval for the stage 2 plan, where does that leave us?
So it's highly unlikely
Anybody's
because
got an
we've
answer.
done this.
John?
Yeah, the
Okay.
General Assembly overrides RIDE.
Okay.
They actually have more power. They can pass the bond.
Oh, so all right, so we can put the bond on the ballot, and the bond goes on the ballot, and that overrides RIDE's denial of our stage 2 application.
Nantucket, they didn't go through the stage applications. They simply went to the General Assembly, got the bond money, and did Nathaniel Green and the Potter Burns School.
Did they still get reimbursement on that?
They still get reimbursement.
Okay.
Ride was
All right.
furious about it.
You know, part of me likes that.
Johnny, use the microphone.
All right.
Yes,
No,
please.
I'm good. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Yes. Go ahead, Laura.
So if the bond does not have to technically be approved through RIDE, right?
No, the RIDE has nothing to do with the bond.
Sorry.
It is, actually, Karen can explain, if you want to just give the,
Can you explain that?
30-second elevator speech.
Well, RIDE approves the reimbursement. They provide the construction, they approve the construction aid. But, the General Assembly legislation, which we draft with your input and direction, prevails.
Okay.
She's been your bond counsel since 1997, I believe.
Actually, before that. Okay. I started practicing when I was 12.
She has more history than anybody else.
I think I started working on Charahoe matters in the late 80s.
No, this is
You are hiring her.
you are hiring her, but this is not a random hire.
Okay,
All right.
gotcha.
All right. I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on this, Madam Clerk? Okay. So, who is in favor? All those in favor of voting on hiring Karen Grandy as our bond counsel? Do you have that, Madam Clerk? So it looks like that's unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you
Karen.
so
Thank you,
much.
Karen.
Thank you. Sorry you had to wait all this time. Thank you.
Very
I appreciate your time tonight.
informative evening.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Good background for me.
Next on the agenda is the approval and vote of the superintendent's goals for school year 25-26.
So this is really important, so thank you for extending your time so that we can do this. What I did was, just to make sure, this is not a conversation about the process, but I am passing around in a codified version of what the current process is. So if you want to make changes, at least you have what we do now. So the goals are created from your strategic plan, which was approved in 2023 by that school committee. Once the school committee approves, so that's the collaboration around the goals. So when, this is a great year because we're going to be preparing for Vision 2029. So members of the school committee, you will all get to, this committee will get to determine the goals moving forward at probably your May meeting, once we update you of the sunset of Vision 2026. So when you do your strategic plan, every year thereafter, you expect your superintendent, per the law, per the rules, to ensure that I align, or whoever you have, aligns their goals to that strategic plan. So I think most of you are here except for Ms. Purcell, Ms. Teff, Ms. Chapman, and Ms. Dinsmore. The rest of you were a part of that last strategic plan.
I was in the community.
You were in the community, yes. Actually, yeah. So you can see that the top three basically, as I put them into three areas of need: student achievement for the academic excellence, your student support and alternative pathways. Think about that as all of your resources and tools, your AI, all of that big picture kind of overview. And then obviously always working to build community trust and planning. That's your budget alignment, that's your communication, your town halls, the work that we do across the district. So I did this a little differently this year based on some of the feedback from last year. So each goal explains to you, why this is important based on the strategic plan, what actions that we're doing, and then how we will measure that success. So at the very end of that document, you will see that this is a balance of academic excellence, student support, and community responsibilities. By focusing on both student learning and the systems that support our schools, we ensure that Charahoe remains one of the top performing districts in Rhode Island, continuing to prepare students for success in college, career, and life. So if you look just briefly at the framework, this is not on the agenda, but I just want to just bring your attention to something. What I tried to do was give you sort of that month-by-month activity that happens in ways that you then will utilize those opportunities to continue to evaluate my performance. And then what you would do is I provided you like which month it happens in so that you can see the activity, the committee role, and the evaluation focus.
Thank you. That's okay. No, no, no.
Alignment to the standards. So this gives you a big picture, like, okay, what happens when?
Gina, hold on one moment. Does everybody have this sheet?
No.
Okay, can we pass that around to everybody? Does everybody have that now?
We got extras over here.
Okay, so now everybody has the sheet. Okay, go ahead,
Does anybody
Gina.
need one?
We passed them. We're good.
The school committee just failed passing out papers.
Well, it is past 10 o'clock, so. So I'm happy to discuss any of the goals or, and answer any questions that you may have.
So I just have a general comment, and I spoke with Gina today about the goals, and I guess my question to her was more of a process thing, because I felt like, you know, we've talked about sort of revamping the evaluation process and making it more thoughtful, meaningful, collaborative. And if you remember, school committee members, Gina passed out in the FYI section a couple of months ago, you know, evaluating the superintendent, and in here it talks about performance, responsibilities, next steps, about sort of goals being a collaborative process between the school committee and the superintendent. And I didn't feel that it was collaborative, but Gina explained to me that 3 years ago, you went through a strategic planning process, and the school committee at that time put forward goals and strategic goals, right? So she's trying to make sure that her document here is aligned with the strategic plan. So my comment to her was that moving forward, I would love this to be a more collaborative process where we can help shape the direction of the district based on, you know, bold thoughts and ideas, and, you know, where we want our school district to be over the next 3 to 6 years. So Gina explained that, I think former Chair Lyall suggested that there be some liaisons from the school committee as part of the strategic planning process. And I would like to suggest that, but I'll suggest that at the end. So I appreciate your goals, Gina, and I do think that having a liaison moving forward from the school committee could allow us to be more collaborative in the process. So.
And just so you know, if you're already sitting on a school improvement team, which I know Linda, Jess, and Laura all sit on. Sorry if I didn't miss anybody. And Polly's on the, are you on the Ashway sit? So the school improvement teams are already members of the strategic planning team. So their input comes in as well. So that really, if you think about it, when we did the elementary school conversation, when Hope Valley was closing, we had like sort of the super sit. That is in sense what happens with the strategic planning, that we all work together. But the school improvement teams are the liaison for the school governance, and they are as much a part of the presentation that I'll give to you when we unroll Vision 2029.
Karen, Laura,
Gina, can you just remind me the makeup of the team at the various
Yep, the school improvement teams are made up of a balanced group of educators, parents, and community members, and required to have students at the middle and high school level. However, I'm very proud of our elementary schools because they have also included student voice on their sits as well.
Laura?
So I just want to, if you could clarify for me, I remember a few years ago there, and I don't know if this is the same thing, but for some reason I'm thinking that it was, but there was a strategic planning committee which included, like, you know, stakeholders from the community and the school and whatnot. Is that specifically what you're referring to right now?
Yep, you would have come into this library, we had the
And
posted.
then we had a Zoom call.
Yep, we have had 2 Zoom calls and
Okay.
followed up, yes.
So that 3-day process where everybody came in and, well, it was on Zoom as well, that's where these goals are essentially coming from?
Almost. So basically what happens is your school improvement teams are already starting to have these conversations about their school improvement plans and thinking forward. So they have those sort of school-based conversations, and then we bring it out to the strategic level.
required some goals.
Say it again?
The state required us to have some goals.
Right.
Yeah,
So for
for
example
achieving
is
goals.
you are required, if you have not reached 80%, the state has goals you must put around science, math, and ELA.
Yeah.
So this process changed in 2019, and so that when you did Vision 2026, that was different than Vision 2023 because it was under a different set of General Assembly rules. But we'll go through that fun all again. Thank you. Craig?
And just to throw something out there, just remember with the strategic plan, occasionally the school committee will throw a monkey wrench in in the mix by basically eliminating something on it, such as when we eliminated world language for elementary. That wasn't expected. It was a decision made because we were getting a push to reduce costs.
Thank you for that feedback. Linda, Jess, Jess? Linda, did you have another one?
Yeah.
Jess?
Mine is sort of just some feedback on the goals themselves. And I know you don't overlook anything, but in goal 1, improve student achievement and close gaps, it mentions these tests that are start in 3rd grade. So I'm not seeing a lot geared toward the younger kids, which is really where you want to catch.
In district assessment data. So if you look at that first bullet.
Okay.
And in district assessment data.
Okay, which they all are going through that. Okay.
Including
And then
pre-K.
I know that, you know, this is not necessarily a collaborative document, and I can say this at other times, but it's in the health and wellness meeting minutes that one of the goals we established this year for the Health and Wellness Subcommittee is to increase opportunities for physical activity. So I just want to start saying that out loud. I think it's really important. The kids do have recess from K through 8, but that's something that if I get to be involved in the strategic vision discussion this year as a school committee member, community member, that I would be bringing to the table.
So that's a good point. So things like that. So that's going to be part of our multi-tiered systems of support because we're looking at our social emotional learning as well as how we physical movement, connectedness. That all falls under that. So if you don't see something that you're interested in, just let me know because it probably falls under the larger umbrella. Because obviously, if I listed everything,
like
this
I
would be
said,
a very big document.
I know you don't overlook things.
But yes, movement. You probably, if you're in the elementary schools, you've heard it. Or
Yeah.
middle and high school call it resets. They call them movement breaks. Ashway, did a really nice job with the kindergarten doing some additional movement breaks. So we're really bringing in more of that opportunity for students to be outside, outdoors, and engaging in play because play can also be strategically done with education and learning.
Yeah. Sorry, one more question. Would you put your goals as far as possible state legislation in something like this? Like, I'm thinking about for recess, right? Right now, the law says K through 6 is required. So what if it was changed to say K through 8? Would that be something, like, if you had any legislative ideas?
I
on
do,
your-
but I'm thinking differently because recess is something like I always think that that's a minimum. I'm actually proud because we have our high school kids going outdoors, right? So not necessarily recess, but that
Right.
movement break. But I do think really where I have sort of advocated at the state level and RISA is really thinking about. Oftentimes, I feel like we're playing on the defense, and where I think we have a lot of very smart, intelligent people in this room, in a lot of rooms where if we organize, like I think we are doing now with the towns and cities and the municipal leaders, we actually have a strong force. I would love to see more legislation that sort of unravels some of the things that tie us, like the CTE. But right now, myself and Pontiac feel like the skunk at the garden party because people are trying to stop student opportunities because of budgets. While I understand that, my call to action is really think about how we can change legislation so that opportunities exist and the funding is allowable and create sort of that opportunity that doesn't shut the gates. So, but to your point, I always see is the law is the floor. We can go above that.
Okay. Linda?
Just I thought in previous conversations at our table here, I've heard a lot of things on how we're going to measure your successes, and I appreciate that you actually put some measurable items that we can look at. For instance, you show a 3 to 5% increase in student family satisfaction. You show an increase in attendance. So there's some things in there that I think that we can all look at and actually use your measures to measure your success. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Laura? And then Craig, did you have your hand raised? No? Okay. Laura?
So for the SIT teams, we have, I know that the first 3 goals, if I recall correctly, the first 3 goals were mandated by the state. And then it was the 4th goal that we had that each of the SIT teams had flexibility with. So I guess what I was trying to look at when I was looking at these goals is there's, it's listed as 1, 2, and 3. So basically these are only applicable to those 3 goals that are mandated that you have by the state?
Just goal one. So
Just
what I
goal
did
one.
was on goal one, I sort of encapsulated all that the state requires in my goal one, because it really is about the academic achievement. And then in goal two and goal three, I've sort of broadened out based on feedback from the committee, the parents, and the school improvement team members from all of the communities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Gina, under goal one, improve student achievement and close gaps, it says how we will measure success. Second bullet, students identified for special education alternative learning plans will show stretch growth as measured by their individual plans and statewide achievement data, cohort analysis. So what does stretch growth mean and how do you quantify it?
So stretch growth in our screeners and our diagnostic and our assessments, they are given average goals. So you may actually have a student that has grown 2 years but may not meet proficiency yet. So you want to make sure that you're looking in alternative settings. You want to make sure that you're looking at as the child as the individual versus the grade level standard. You always, the state assessment does that for us. It tells you, okay, by March and April, we're seeing if you can meet the state data. But the stretch goal shows us that, and Dr. Camilla will do a nice review once again about in November that shows you what that looks like right now across the district, so that we know, because sometimes our families of our students who are differently abled, they sometimes feel those state assessment scores in their hearts, right? So we want to let them know that while yes, they may not be exactly where their typical peers are, that they're growing and they're growing at their pace, but they have a strong growth. So we look at what does it look like, almost if you think of like a boat. We don't want us to have the holes in the boat where we're just emptying out the water and we're just trying to sustain. We want no holes in the boat, and we want them gliding through the river so that we can ensure that that stretch goal means that they're getting closer and closer to closing that gap, but based on their individualized needs.
So when Dr. Camella puts forward his report, then you will be sort of distinguishing those, whether or not those stretch growth goals were met or not. So that will be, yeah.
That's one piece of data that we can share.
Okay, great. And then I had one more question under that same goal one, increase attendance by 3 percentage points across the district.
We're actually doing very well.
So what is the, I guess, attendance now? And so what level are we at now? And how will we know that we're going to get to exceed that
Great
goal?
question. In November, that's another part of Dr. Camilla's presentation. So just so you have different voices, we work collaboratively with the high school team, the middle school team, and the elementary leaders. They often typically all show up for your November meeting, sometimes December if RIDE gives us the data late. And then Dr. Camilla and the leadership team puts together the assessment to sort of take you through attendance and actually our subgroup data, because our highest level of need, and I'm spending most of my time this year in our alternative classrooms and looking at our attendance work, because that's where what we know is students in our district who are chronically absent, so absent 2 days or more a month, are not meeting the same benchmarks as their peers during the state assessments. We do have some, and actually there's a good handful of them that will meet the EOY benchmarks. But when the state assessment happens in March and April, they're taking longer to reach those benchmarks because they're absent, 2 days. And we often, as many of you will see in the updates, we try to provide parents with an understanding of what that attendance looks like. You may know the Attendance Matters campaign for the governor and for the state. But if you look at the governor's budget, and I did a 5-year analysis, my friend Simon and I like to do this stuff. I'm a friend. But if you did a 5-year analysis of the governor's budget, you'll see that really there's 2 anchors to really making sure the district moves forward. It's the multi-tiered systems of support and ensuring that, so you should, if you don't see the multi-tiered systems of support and alternative learning growth in your next vision, then I've done a bad job.
Okay. Well, I don't think that'll happen, but, all right. Any more input on this? Okay, so do we have a vote?
Sorry.
Oh, yes, Laura.
Do you, I'm just thinking for newer, because school committees tend to change composition pretty frequently. And one of the things that just kind of struck me when I was looking at this is that if there's somebody that new that comes onto it, they may not understand what all these acronyms are. And I've noticed that schools use acronyms quite a bit. That maybe like a key would be
That's
helpful.
a good catch. Donna Chambers actually always catches me on that too, so that's a good catch for me. Thank you.
Laura, join the military.
Laura, I'll help.
Nope, I'm glad, listen, that, I would say Ms. Chambers was always good about making sure So thank you for checking in on that.
No problem. And then the last thing was, so for the MTSS, we've definitely heard about a lot about this for the last year, I would say. And I know Dr. Kamel is going to do a presentation on this. And I'm just wondering that, you know, in these goals, I noticed that it says that, that any student that has a plan in place, is that, so I guess my question is, how do you encompass the students that don't have a plan in place into that framework? So
That's a
like,
great
just as an
question.
example, if you have a student who when they took the PSAT in their freshman year, they did well, then they take it their sophomore year and they dropped by 100 points. How do you capture that, and how do you approach that student? Like, what's the action plan to say, okay, by the time you get to your junior year, like, you need to be in this place? Like, what does that look like?
So we have it, not to sort of bore everyone here, but we have a data dashboard. And what happens is we have all of our data is built into a system where we can actually, at a click of a button, see, even without the PSAT and SAT, and it's a good check for us because when those data points come in, we should be very close to knowing what our kids are already going to do. So if a child drops 100 points and we didn't catch it, highly unlikely. Unless, and we do have kids who have some trauma that happens. Sometimes there's something that occurred, or a parent will reach out and say, and sometimes Dr. Camilla will reach out to Ryan and get a medical sort of like disposition exemption because there was other, like, for example, we've had parents whose students have passed away, who have had siblings pass away, or been in traumatic car accidents and things like that, that could impact how they access the test. So oftentimes with the systems that we have in place, we're able to see with the in-district assessments where every student is throughout, like, I mean, and I can tell you, our leaders are in this probably more than they should be, because sometimes I'm like, okay, kids have to actually get instructed too, so give them a moment. But we can, at a click of a button now, be able to pull up that data for teachers. And I think this is the first year, because last year we piloted, but this year it rolled out to everybody for the dashboard to make that a much easier undertaking for our teachers, because we really want their focus to be on the instruction in the classroom versus trying to compile that data so that they can get it as a click of a button. So in essence, if you want to know more, I could absolutely, like, we could probably set up a time and maybe even talk with some of the school teams that actually do that work.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, I have one more question under goal 2. So under goal 2, it says strengthen student supports and alternative learning. And then on the third bullet, what will we do?
Yep.
Or what we will do, strengthen opportunities for K through 12 students in career exploratory programming, including expanded work-based learning, internships, and industry-aligned credentials. So when you say expanding internships, there's nothing quantifiable there that I can sort of get my arms around. So, like, you know, are we going to increase internships by 20 internships, 30 internships, 10? So so there's no number there that I can quantify whether or not you achieve that goal.
So for example, when I came in, we had, the internships were very limited because of COVID, right? So they almost were non-existent. So this was an area that we've really worked hard with the industry, and it's really more of a high school goal. And you actually get, on our district accountability report card, you get this data. So they track work-based learning. They track our internships. We're actually increasing, we're holding ourselves accountable to that data to increase above and beyond the career tech program. So for example, the USDA grant that we brought in, we have 40 internships that never existed before, that they're getting student paid internships.
Great.
So I can add that, but that's a good point. Like, I can show you where we are now compared to where we will be in this spring.
Excellent. Anything else? All right, so do I have a motion to approve and vote on the superintendent's goals for school year 25-26?
I think we already did. I think we already gave a motion.
Madam Clerk told me we don't have a motion.
Louise is
I make a motion to do such.
Thank you, Craig.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion
You
and
hear
we have
that? To do such.
we have a motion and a second from Craig and Karen. All in favor? Unanimous. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna head out.
Okay.
Whether my kid wants to.
Thank you, Polly. All right, approve and vote on district, sorry, that was reverberating there. Approve and vote on the district legal counsel contract. So we have a renewal for Brennan, Scungio, and Kresge for July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. So do we have a motion to approve the legal counsel contract for the next year? Who said that?
Jess.
Jess?
Second?
Craig?
Tyler?
Tyler, did you have something to
He's
say?
younger, give it to him.
No, it doesn't matter. Somebody made a second.
All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous.
Go home, John.
Congratulations, John. Welcome back.
Thank you, John.
I don't know if he wants to be back.
Approval and vote on the following grants.
I'm recommending all approval of the grants, and if you take them as a whole cohort, unless somebody wants them separate.
Yeah.
Second?
So moved by Karen, seconded by Craig. All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous. Okay. Approval and vote on vote of commitment of fiscal year 25 funds.
Right, so this is all, and Greg can talk more about this, but this is an annual review.
Oh,
that
wait a minute, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tyler?
Madam Chair, and Superintendent Picard and Mr. Zenyan, is this something we have to do tonight? Can we table this until
I'll ask
next
Greg.
month?
I mean, I don't think.
So tomorrow will be the start of my second year, so I'm still new. I don't know, it's always been done this month.
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean,
Because I would like to talk through this a little bit more for some of the newer members that are on the committee.
That'd be
And
great.
I don't think at 10:30 at night is a good time to do that.
I don't have a problem with it. I can't imagine, I can't think of anything.
So
that
you
is
making a
on.
motion?
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion that we table this to the November meeting.
Second.
Okay,
Thank
we
you,
have a
Ms.
motion and a second.
Luzon.
I'm assuming there's no discussion on this. All in favor?
No, because I want to understand a little bit.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I am recommending approval of the budget transfers as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Consent agenda items
Anybody want to?
for approval and vote.
I need A pulled, please.
That's okay.
A?
Right.
Yeah, a minute. Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
so do we have a motion to?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to move the remainder, but before I do it, please, somebody second it after I finish.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge the donations. One, gratitude to Madison and Derek
Galecki.
Galecki Racing for their participation in the Richmond Elementary School Reading Challenge. And two, gratitude to RICAN for their donation of snacks for Richmond Elementary School.
Second.
Seconded by Tyler. I think you got in under the wire there. All in favor of the consent agenda items 9B, C, D, E, 1 and 2? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve A, minutes from the regular session of the Charo School Committee on September 23rd, 2025.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second.
Second. Sorry.
All in favor of approving the regular session minutes for the school committee for September 23rd, 2025? Unanimous.
No.
No? I'm sorry. That's right, because we pulled it. Sorry. All right, everyone except Tyler is an abstention. Yes. Okay, thank you. Reports, subcommittee reports, Health and Wellness Subcommittee minutes.
So those are attached for your review for the Health and Wellness Subcommittee, which they're doing an amazing job. So I want to thank that committee. We had a wonderful turnout at the Health and Wellness Conference this year. We were joined by students, and like I said, we were highlighted. Dr. Karakosian and Susan Scanapico represented us very well. The presentation of the work that we've done for Farm to School to celebrate across the state, with many people coming up to us asking us, how do we get this to happen? So that was really a wonderful experience. So for my reports, although you'll have a much more robust presentation next month, just to give you some updates, because the commissioner and the state did put the data out there for us to review. We are very happy to show encouraging progress for Charahoe students along some areas that we are, and there are also areas that we are continuing to watch closely. So with nearly every student participating in state assessments, the results provide us with a very clear picture about how they're doing with their statewide peers. The Charahoe students made notable gains across several subjects this year in English language arts. Both elementary and high school students showed improvement. High school students in particular performed strongly with over 70% meeting or exceeding expectations on the SAT. Math scores on the SAT also showed a substantial gain, with students improving nearly 10 percentage points compared to last year. Very difficult to do, so really proud of that work. Science results were another area of growth, as students across grade levels demonstrated stronger performance on the state's Next Generation Science Assessment. These gains reflect the hard work of our students and teachers, as well as the commitment to high-quality instruction. Charahoe Middle School continues to show steady progress in both math and ELA, a reflection of the dedication of our teachers and the school's strong improvement plan. These gains also build on the solid foundation created at our elementary schools, showing how each level of our district works together to support student success. In addition, our students with special needs continue to show growth in ELA math at the elementary schools. While we are encouraged by these results, there are some areas that need continued attention. RICAS math scores at the elementary level dipped slightly, and some schools showed more variability than others. We also continue to see achievement gaps for students who are economically disadvantaged, and ensuring that all students have equitable access to success remains our top priority. By focusing on early supports in reading and math, as well as targeted interventions, we are working to ensure that every student has an opportunity to thrive. As the district, our focus extends beyond individual test scores. We are guided by Charahoe's vision of a graduate, which defines success as students completing their high school journey ready for college, career, and life, and also the vision of the graduate work that you've all approved. These assessments are one important measure of progress along that path, but they are not the whole story. We remain committed to providing every student with the knowledge, skills, and learner qualities needed to graduate with confidence and purpose. We are grateful to our teachers, our staff, our families, and our community members for their continued support in helping every student succeed. Together, we are ensuring all Charahoe students are prepared not just to graduate, but to thrive in any opportunities that await them. And just for some coming events, tomorrow is Unity Day, also our Anti-Bullying Prevention Month with the Student Education Advisory Panel. This is one of their district initiatives, so kudos to them. Wear orange if you want to support as well, to show some unity, or even better, show an act of kindness if you don't have any orange. We have our flu clinic at the middle school. That's one of our larger community events. If you didn't get your flu shot but want it, you can go to the middle school tomorrow at 3:30 to 6:30. And really, a shout out for our virtual parent workshop this Thursday. It's in the e-update. If you go to the bubble on the website, you can click that, you can get that, and there'll be a reminder sent out tomorrow and a little text message to make sure that you get on to watch for Thursday. And the topic, it eludes me right now. Do you remember the topic? But it's on the e-update. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. School committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions?
Not right now.
I have a policy. She did, it's a policy subcommittee.
Oh, okay.
And I want me to read it. It says, future agenda items, policy subcommittee, policy for media and photography, separate of current one, maybe, she put, specifically dealing with social media at school events, elementary schools.
Oh, that's, okay. And then the other, I think that the school committee members will probably be getting a notice about this, but we've talked a lot about revamping the evaluation process to be more thoughtful and meaningful, and whether or not there should be a subcommittee, the full committee of the school committee to discuss this. I do think that that needs a special meeting, because look at our agendas, and I don't want to necessarily be here until 11 o'clock. If we put that on the agenda, I know next month, Dr. Kamela is going to be presenting RICAS, and I think that there are other things that are going to be on, and the bond discussion is going to be on next month, and that's going to be probably a really lengthy discussion. So it's my preference that we have a special meeting around that. Craig?
I've been on this committee for almost 14 years now, and we used to have a lot more meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only time we went down to one per month was June, July, and August.
November and December.
Well, I think you're correct, but the rest of the months were 2 per month.
Sure. Okay, we'll
Food for
we'll
thought.
take that under
I'm not
advisement.
saying I want to go there. I'm just saying food for thought.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just, along that line, I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be every month.
Have agenda request.
If,
Oh, from a
Yeah,
community
I
member?
think- I can't-
Okay.
I don't think we
I'm
can-
going to hold you there,
if
Mr.
not- it's
Avedisian.
just a comment.
Okay.
Just a suggestion that, you know, if you know you have an item like we had tonight, just call one special extra meeting. I mean, and then keep to your regular schedule.
Okay, thank you. So if, when you see, just check your emails because please respond to Angela because obviously we want a quorum and we want the full committee here to have that discussion
I
because,
call and talk to her.
well, there you go. Okay. Well, are you retired? You're retired.
Cameron's just not giving me a conversation yet.
No, it's gonna be on
Yeah, I
next
know.
month's agenda. Yes, for discussion. So I don't need it? No.
Madam
It's-
Chair?
It's in the queue.
Motion to.
Yes.
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.